Bit Na is an upright judge who always pursues justice. One snowy night while walking by the lake, she was stabbed to death by a mysterious man in black. Bit Na struggled in pain in a pool of blood. The moment before her death, her soul separated from her body. Bit Na looked in fear at her body lying motionless with no signs of life. Surprisingly, a path covered in roses appeared on the white snow. Bit Na calmly walked step by step towards the frozen lake. She was attracted by a strong light coming from under the lake. A loud noise caused the lake to shake violently. Bit Na was frightened when she saw a mysterious black gate. Around the gate were imprisoned souls crying. Along with that, there was a burning line of words above the gate. The gate slowly opened. A dazzling light attracted her soul. Bit Na curiously stepped inside. She was shocked to see the murderer's soul disappear before her eyes. In front of her was the powerful judge of hell, along with her devil assistant. They were surprised that a judge's soul had misled into this place. Bit Na panicked and said that someone stabbed her in the park. She also didn't understand how she could come here. The judge of hell said that this place only judged murderers. Despite the assistant's objection, the judge still decided to sentence Bit Na to death. She would be exiled to purgatory for thousands of years. Bit Na knelt in fear in front of the demons. She had never killed anyone. Why did she have to suffer this punishment? However, this woman did not want to hear Bit Na's explanation. The judge coldly sent Bit Na's soul to purgatory. At this moment, the gate opened. The cold-hearted the Lord High Steward appeared. The tentacles growing from his back made the judge scared. The Lord High Steward was furious that the judge dared to send innocent people to purgatory, but the judge showed no remorse. Her job was to send the souls that appeared here to hell. The Lord High Steward angrily ordered the judge to complete Bit Na's work. Within a year, she had to capture 10 murderers and send them to hell. The judge firmly opposed that order. The Lord High Steward went crazy and shot tentacles that stuck tightly into the judge's body, warning her that if she dared to disobey, what awaited her was death. The judge struggled in pain and despair. She agreed to the Lord High Steward's order. The judge appeared in front of Bit Na's body. She gently touched Bit Na's forehead and saw all her memories. The judge then merged with Bit Na's body, and Bit Na was now teleported to a giant castle, surrounded by many pillars of fire and scary monsters. She was scared when a monster rushed towards her. Luckily, the glass was strong enough that the monster could not destroy it. The elevator took Bit Na to the top floor, where the wardens were waiting to capture her soul. Bit Na quickly ran away from the warden, but the warden's power was too great. A bull-headed monster rushed to attack Bit Na. She was scared and tried to resist. The monster went crazy and scratched her back. Just as the monster was about to eat Bit Na, a powerful beam of light destroyed the monster. Many people doubted the judge's story. Most of them thought she was crazy. Today, the judge came to get a medical certificate from the hospital. The results showed that the judge was mentally ill. However, the judge did not care at all. Now she needed to quickly go to the trial of a police officer. Dahun was sued by a criminal for assaulting him. The judge did not care much about this trial. She leisurely took out a can of soda from her bag and drank it. The judge asked him why he did not have a lawyer with him. Dahun said that he believed in the law. What he did was completely right. Dahun recounted the night he chased the suspect. That man was a rich young master. This suspect looked down on the law, so he held a knife and threatened him. In self-defense, the police knocked the knife out of his hand. The prosecutor next to him angrily said that the police had beaten his client too much. His client could no longer eat or drink normally. The judge said that his client should have died already. Everyone in the courtroom was surprised by the judge's attitude. She angrily said that Dahun was absolutely right to do so. There was not much time left. The judge asked Dahun if he regretted what he had done. Dahun confidently stood up and said that he regretted not beating the young master to death. The judge smiled and ended the trial. Right after that, she finished her shift and was about to leave, when suddenly the judge was kept by a group of children. The teacher wanted to ask the judge to explain the meaning of the statue of the goddess of justice. The judge happily said that the statue was blindfolded to play hide and seek with the bad guys. A curious child asked why the goddess had to hold a sword. The judge honestly said that it was to kill all the murderers, but when seeing the teacher's expression, the judge quickly corrected her words. The judge said that this statue was the goddess of justice. However, justice does not exist in this world. Bad people live good lives, while good people live miserable lives. Dahun stood next to her and was very impressed by this judge. As soon as the judge reached the parking lot, Dahun ran to greet her. He had something to say to the judge, but she quickly gave all her things to Dahun to hold, then drove away. Dahun was disappointed that he was ignored. However, he was even more impressed with the judge. After the judge left, Dahun went to her office. He wanted to hand over all these things to her assistant. They were surprised when a handsome man delivered the things there. At this time, the judge had already arrived at the church, but before the power of the cross, she could not stand firm. The judge quickly put on sunglasses so that she would not see God. She walked up behind a woman who was praying. The woman was afraid when someone approached her. The judge introduced herself as coming here to fulfill the woman's wish. The woman had been cruelly treated by her boyfriend. Although the woman had applied for a waiver of punishment through the power of the devil, the judge saw the woman being brutally beaten by her boyfriend. The judge gradually took off her sunglasses. When the woman looked into the judge's eyes, she was a little waving. However, the woman quickly left. The judge hurriedly chased her. The boyfriend's trial would take place tomorrow. Meanwhile, if the woman continued to hold such a view, her boyfriend would be set free. The woman did not care about what the judge said. At this moment, the police appeared. The woman said that the judge kept bothering her. The police asked to see the judge's papers, but she had already given them all to Da-hoon. The police immediately asked her to come to the police station to give more statements. The judge happened to meet Da-hoon at the police station. Thanks to him, her identity was vindicated. In order to get out of here quickly, the judge asked Da-hoon if their relationship was closer than this. Everyone looked at Da-hoon in surprise. The judge said that she followed that woman to investigate something. After finishing the report, the police released the judge. Before the judge left, Da-hoon gave her the diagnosis paper. He looked at the judge sympathetically. Da-hoon said that he didn't care who she was, as long as she was a good judge. That was enough. Da-hoon had attended the trial. Early in the morning, the prosecutor stood up to accuse the ungrateful boyfriend, but the lawyer relied on the woman's request for exemption from the sentence to deny it. The prosecutor immediately showed pictures of the woman being brutally beaten. Everyone in the court looked at the boyfriend in anger. He pretended to be innocent. The prosecutor continued to accuse the suspect, but he cried bitterly. The judge saw this that asked him to be quiet. The judge coldly asked if he wanted his girlfriend dead. The boyfriend said he didn't want that at all. The prosecutor stood up and asked for a 1-year sentence. The judge looked at the boyfriend with disdain. She said she would see him again at the final sentencing hearing. The guards escorted the suspect to the car. Before returning to the detention center, he walked up to the woman's parents. The boyfriend smiled wickedly and asked how his girlfriend was doing. At the same time, the judge angrily returned to the office. At this rate, she would never meet her quota of sending 10 murderers to hell. The assistant suggested that instead of catching 10 people, she should find and deal with the serial killer. Then she would meet the quota given by the Lord High Steward. The judge angrily said that where could she find the serial killer now? At that moment, the police called. Da-hoon said that she must not release the boyfriend. Otherwise, the boyfriend would seek revenge on the woman. The judge felt interested in this police officer. What he thought was the same as hers. However, before that, the judge had to talk directly to the victim's family. The judge told the woman's parents her guess. The parents begged the judge to save their daughter. As soon as the judge saw the tears in the parents' eyes, she sympathized with them. She promised that she would make the boyfriend pay dearly. The judge wanted the two to reveal what happened between the woman and her boyfriend. After getting the information about the woman, the judge happily returned to the office. The assistant was trying to find the serial murder case, but he couldn't find it. The judge was excited to know more information about the boyfriend. In order to send him back to hell, the judge came up with a perfect plan. Today was the day of the sentencing hearing. Everyone was dissatisfied when the judge only fined the boyfriend by money. Da-hoon below was very disappointed with her decision, but the most desperate people were the woman's family. In order to get justice for them, Da-hoon went to question the judge. However, the judge said that she was only following the law, so she couldn't put him in jail. Da-hoon said that she had to think about the woman's feelings, but the judge thought Da-hoon was being annoying. Da-hoon was angry at the judge's attitude. Afterwards, he personally went to the prison gate. The boyfriend thought that Da-hoon had come to give him tofu to ward off bad luck. As soon as he reached out to take the tofu, Da-hoon dropped it on the ground. Da-hoon warned him not to think of revenge on the woman, otherwise, Da-hoon would put him in jail again. The boyfriend angrily kicked the tofu away. That night, the woman didn't open the door to anyone. She had lost faith in justice. No matter how her parents tried to comfort her, she couldn't accept the truth. Da-hoon said that he put a smart watch in her pocket. Just when she pressed the button, the police will come immediately. Then time was passing by. Every day, Da-hoon would come to check in front of the woman's house. After making sure everything was safe, he would return to the station to work. His sister, also his superior, was worried about Da-hoon taking risks. She didn't want Da-hoon to spend too much time with a woman. There would be other places that needed his help. Because she stayed at home for too long, the woman felt bored, so she wanted her father to pick her up. That night at the judge's office, the judge was upset that the boyfriend didn't do anything. The assistant suggested that she use her magic weapon. The judge happily activated the universal mirror. It allowed her to observe what the boyfriend was doing. At the moment, he was in a hardware store. Seeing his sinister smile, the judge understood that he was about to attack the woman. The boyfriend appeared in front of the woman's house, pretending to be a police officer. As soon as the woman opened the door, she was scared to see her boyfriend appear. He frantically broke the lock and entered. The angry boyfriend beat the woman up. The woman was scared and begged him to spare her life. At the same time, the judge was watching his actions. The crazy boyfriend smashed the watch the police gave the woman. He threatened the woman that if she dared to call the police, he would kill her parents. As soon as the boyfriend left, the woman was so desperate that she wanted to leave this world. The judge smiled horribly when she saw that she had achieved her goal. Then the judge appeared in front of the boyfriend. He quickly wiped away the blood on his body. The judge asked him to go to a private place to talk. As soon as the boyfriend walked in front of the judge, a sword appeared in her hand. Purple energy radiated and surrounded the sword. The judge's eyes turned purple. Just as the judge was about to take action against this scum, the inspector driving the car suddenly rushed over to cause trouble. Da-hoon angrily grabbed the ungrateful boyfriend by the collar. He was so mad that he wanted to kill the boyfriend right there. At the moment Da-hoon took action, the judge stopped him. She said that what he was doing now was an abuse of power, but Da-hoon didn't care about the consequences. He was willing to quit his job to beat this guy up. However, his arm couldn't move. Da-hoon was surprised to see the judge so strong. At that moment, the police siren sounded. They quickly stopped Da-hoon. Afterwards, the police arrested the boyfriend on suspicion of stalking the woman. Before leaving, the boyfriend bowed to the judge, then gave Da-hoon a contemptuous smile. He was furious that the bastard dared to look down on him. The police quickly escorted him to the police station. Now it was just Da-hoon and the judge. He politely invited her to come with him in the car. The judge was scared when she saw a cross hanging on Da-hoon's car. She quickly took out her sunglasses and put them on. The judge curiously asked where they would go. Da-hoon didn't say clearly and took her to the woman's house. The woman's house had been sealed by the police. Looking at the crime scene, the judge could imagine what had happened there. Da-hoon uneasily asked the judge if she felt remorseful, but the judge said she didn't feel anything. If she sent the boyfriend to jail for a year, this would still have happened. Da-hoon was helpless before her attitude. The judge calmly explained that many people had lost their lives in cases like this. She was referring to the terrible crimes that the boyfriend had not had to pay for. Da-hoon firmly said that he would put the boyfriend in jail. He didn't need a selfish judge like her. The judge was worried that her plan would be ruined. She hurriedly chased after the police. After returning to the police station, Da-hoon directly questioned the boyfriend. He went crazy thinking that his girlfriend was dead. Da-hoon tried to suppress his anger. He said that the woman was still alive. The police rushed in just in time before the woman left this world. Seeing the woman crying and begging for death, Da-hoon felt extremely guilty. However, he did not have enough evidence to convict the boyfriend. The police had to release the bastard by law. The superiors ordered Da-hoon to keep an eye on him at all times, so Da-hoon took him home. Despite the boyfriend's displeasure, he had to listen to Da-hoon. He warned the boyfriend that the police would be watching him every day. If he dared to harm the woman, he would suffer the consequences. Little did Da-hoon know that someone else was also following the boyfriend. The judge from afar was looking for an opportunity to send the boyfriend to hell. A new day had begun. The judge was frustrated after watching all night without any results. The assistant curiously asked about the results of the case. The judge regretfully said that the woman was still alive. They were trying to circumvent the law set by the Lord High Steward. However, the trouble now was Da-hoon. If they wanted to kill the boyfriend, they had to get past the police guard. At the same time, at the headquarters, emergency arrest request to the boyfriend was rejected. Everyone was angry that he had escaped punishment again. The superior ordered Da-hoon to continue protecting the woman's family. His enthusiasm moved the woman's family. As soon as Da-hoon got into the elevator, the boyfriend from the upper floor came down in front of their house. He used glue to fog up the binoculars. Just as he was about to break the lock and enter, a text message came and made him change his mind. The next day, someone came to the woman's house to check. When she saw someone outside, the woman extremely panicked. The father hesitated and did not want to call the police. He did not know how long the police would protect them. In order to reassure his daughter, he personally went out to meet the man standing in front of the house. The father held a knife and wanted to kill the man standing in front of the door. Luckily, Da-hoon reacted in time and avoided the stab. He tried to calm down the panicking father. After realizing that the person standing in front of him was a police officer, the father breathed a sigh of relief and invited him into the house. Da-hoon came here today to give the woman a new surveillance watch. This made the woman feel guilty. Because she dated the wrong person, she had put her parents in danger. At this moment, the inspector received a call. He turned around and looked at the woman's family in stunned. Meanwhile, at the judge's office, the judge was very happy to have completed the task. It turned out that the person who sent the message to the boyfriend last night was the judge. The boyfriend thought that his girlfriend had asked him to meet her, so he went to the meeting place. He angrily walked to an abandoned building. This place used to be the scene of a crime. Standing in front of the desolate scene, the boyfriend was a bit scared, but then he decided to go inside to check. Just as the boyfriend pulled out his hammer to defend himself, the judge confidently walked down the stairs. The boyfriend was scared when he saw the judge here. He quickly hid the hammer he had prepared and asked why the judge was here. She excitedly said that she came here to kill him. The boyfriend thought it was just a joke. He loudly called his girlfriend out, but the judge's assistant came out of the room. He was also a devil with the ability to imitate other people's voices. The boyfriend was stunned when he was fooled. Only when the assistant left did he react. The judge said that the real trial was just starting now. She asked the boyfriend if he was the one who beat his girlfriend. However, he stubbornly said that his girlfriend was not dead yet. Seeing that this bastard still denied it to the end, the judge angrily pulled out her sword. The boyfriend was scared and ran out of the house, but when he opened the gate to escape, he was transported to a new world. The judge walked out of the room and grabbed the boyfriend by the neck. The judge's eyes lit up and looked straight at him. The boyfriend gradually fell into a trance with no way out. In the blink of an eye, he saw himself sitting in a fancy restaurant eating, and the person opposite him was the judge. She was furious that he dared to ignore her. In this world, the two of them were lovers of each other. Just as the boyfriend was about to leave, the judge knelt down and begged. Only now did the boyfriend realize what his girlfriend had been through. On his birthday, the boyfriend broke up with the judge. She got mad and slapped him hard. The boyfriend tried to fight back, but he was no match for the judge. Then she beat him up. The boyfriend looked at the baseball bat in the judge's hand in fear. She coldly hit the boyfriend hard in the face. He cowered in fear and hid in the restroom, but even then, he still couldn't escape the judge's hands. The boyfriend had to go through everything the woman had to endure. Even though the judge was taken away by the police, she appeared in the next scene. Every time, he had to endure the most painful torture. Even though the boyfriend begged the judge to forgive him, she didn't give him a chance. The judge angrily picked up a hammer and beat him up. The pain made him unbearable. Day after day, the boyfriend was tortured by the judge to the point of despair. He was so scared that he decided to leave this world. Back to the present, the boyfriend was terrified when he saw the judge standing in front of him. He wondered if this was hell. The judge introduced herself as a devil. She came here to punish bastards like him. The boyfriend didn't believe what the judge said, so she beat him up to make him believe. Now the boyfriend believed that she was a real devil. He knelt down at the judge's feet and begged for mercy. As soon as the judge answered the phone, the boyfriend took the opportunity to sneak attack her. He strangled her and pressed her against the wall. The pain made the judge laugh. She gently grabbed his neck with one hand and threw him to a corner. From now on, the judge would beat him the same way he beat his girlfriend. She swung her leg and kicked this bastard straight in the face. The crazy boyfriend picked up a piece of glass and attacked her, but to the judge, he was just a bastard. The boyfriend cried out in pain. He knelt down and admitted his mistake in front of the judge. This was the result the judge wanted. She took out the magic sword and stabbed him down into hell. The boyfriend's soul was affixed as seal. The gates of hell slowly opened and sucked the boyfriend's soul. The next day, the police discovered the boyfriend's body. However, his body was no longer intact. Dahoon was surprised to see the words on the boyfriend's forehead. Through the initial investigation, the boyfriend was murdered by someone. However, they could not find any evidence of the mastermind. The crime scene was cleaned up without a trace. Everything was restored to its original state. The police had a headache investigating the case. All they found was that the boyfriend had gone to meet someone. The scar on the head of the corpse meant hell. Dahoon felt familiar because he had heard this word somewhere before. At the same time, at the judge's office, the superior called the judge up to reprimand her, asking her why she didn't settle down to be a judge. If it weren't for the congressman secretly protecting her, she would have been fired long ago. At lunchtime, the colleagues were curious when seeing the judge reprimanded. However, what the judge was concerned about was who the congressman was. They pointed at the TV. That man was the congressman. It was the judge who had broken off the marriage with the congressman's son. Only Bitna knew about this. The judge was just using her body. That night, at a private party, the congressman invited the judge's superior to dinner. He wanted the superior to keep an eye on the judge. Then he advised his eldest son to pay more attention to her. This made the younger son feel uncomfortable. That night, when the judge returned home, a woman invited the judge and the assistant to dinner at her house. Everyone in the boarding house was religious. The judge was so afraid of the cross that she always wore sunglasses. The landlady promised to reduce her rent by half if they embraced Catholicism. The judge hurriedly signed the joining list, but when the landlady read the Bible, the judge quickly ran away. A new day began. After her boyfriend was murdered, the woman was able to overcome her fear. So the inspector made an appointment with the woman to talk. The woman told her that the judge had come to see her a few days ago. The judge said that the woman did not need to feel guilty. The death of the boyfriend was the price he had to pay for his crimes. The inspector was surprised that the judge was so warm like that. That night, while driving home, the judge suddenly appeared and blocked Dahoon's way. He was surprised that the judge appeared here. She said that she came here was want to date Dahoon. She also bought a lot of alcohol and food. Dahoon had to listen to the judge and drink with her. Part of him also felt guilty for using harsh words towards the judge. The judge's purpose in coming here was to find out information. She wanted to know more about the cases that the police had not solved. However, Dahoon was very cautious. Therefore, she decided to let him get drunk. While drunk, Dahoon accidentally told the judge that he had killed 3 people before. This surprised the judge very much. She tried to lead Dahoon to confess his crimes, but he was already drunk. The judge was surprised to see tears falling from his eyes. The sky began to brighten. Dahoon was surprised when he woke up in the camping tent. At this moment, the judge walked over. She asked if what he said last night was true. Dahoon begged her to keep it a secret. The judge agreed to this request. Suddenly, she held out her hand in front of Dahoon. The judge smiled, then drew her sword and stabbed Dahoon in the stomach. He painfully held his wound tightly. Dahoon gradually collapsed to the ground. Dahoon's childhood memories gradually appeared in his mind. Since Dahoon was a child, he has been a warm boy. Every day he wanted to return home quickly to play with his parents. But tragedy struck one fine day. Dahoon walked home with a gift in hand. He was terrified when he saw his parents murdered by a mysterious person. The murderer, holding an axe, walked step by step towards Dahoon. Before he could react, his mother told him to run away. Seeing Dahoon struggling in pain in front of him, the judge was satisfied. Just as she was about to send him to hell, a wisp of smoke appeared in front of the judge. The Lord High Steward angrily stepped in front of her. He said that Dahoon was not a criminal. To punish the judge for her mistake, he ordered that she must now kill 20 murderers. If she did not accept, the Lord High Steward would kill her right here. The Lord High Steward gradually disappeared into the mist. Dahoon's wounds gradually healed to their original state. He was in a panic, not knowing what was happening. lifted his shirt to check the wound. Da-hoon was horrified to see that the wound was healing itself. The judge stepped in front of Da-hoon. He then quickly took her to the police station. However, no one believed what he said. The older sister was angry that Da-hoon was still drugged. No matter how Da-hoon tried to explain, in their eyes the judge was the one who was harmed. She even mischievously raised the handcuffs. The older sister felt guilty and asked the judge to forgive her younger brother. Despite Da-hoon's attempts to explain that the judge had stabbed him to death, the judge was quickly released. Da-hoon watched in horror as the judge calmly left. After escaping from the police station, the judge asked the assistant to go out for lunch. The assistant complained about why the judge was acting so uncertainly. Seeing his attitude made the judge angry. At this moment, the waiter walked over. The assistant felt that this place was a bit strange. As soon as he finished speaking, the waiter pointed a knife at the judge. She was curious about why a dead person was still alive. It turned out that the waitress's true identity was the warden. After letting Bit Na escape from purgatory, she had to suffer punishment. The assistant hurriedly explained that the person in front of her was not Bit Na. Now the judge was only using Bit Na's body. The warden was surprised to be able to meet her idol here. The warden quickly knelt down to pay respect to the judge. The judge shyly told the warden not to kneel anymore. It turned out that they were all exiled to the mortal world by the Lord High Steward to complete mission. In order to help the judge return home quickly, the warden said that she would help the judge complete the mission. After hearing everything from the judge, the warden was curious about what she would do to Da-hoon. Suddenly, an idea popped into her head. At the same time, at the Construction Corporation office, the eldest son was looking at the petition signed by Bit Na. At this moment, the congressman walked in. He brought his son some nourishment. Seeing that his son was having difficulty in land clearance, the father gave his eldest son some advice. However, they were thinking about one person. That was the judge. They couldn't contact the judge. The congressman was surprised that their relationship had not ended yet. Meanwhile, at the police station, they were still investigating the boyfriend's death. The superior suddenly asked everyone if they believed the judge or Da-hoon. Everyone thought that the judge was innocent, but with her experience as a veteran inspector, the elder sister felt that the judge was hiding something from everyone. His younger brother was also undergoing tests at the hospital. He wanted to prove that what he had experienced was true. However, the results came back that he had a mental problem. The judge laughed and walked over in front of him. She guessed that no one would believe him. Da-hoon curiously followed the judge and asked who she was. The judge said that she came from hell. Now she was just temporarily residing in Bit Na's body. Da-hoon laughed and asked the judge whether she thought that he believed her ridiculous story. The judge didn't say much and directly took out the sword. Da-hoon was scared because that was the sword that stabbed him this morning. In just a blink of an eye, the security cameras around here were all destroyed. Even Da-hoon's phone was checked by the judge. He now had nothing to prove to everyone that she was a demon. The judge explained that she didn't intend to kill Da-hoon. It was just an accident that she didn't want. She walked in front of Da-hoon. The judge threatened that if Da-hoon revealed that she had killed him before, Da-hoon's life would end forever. After saying that, she quickly got in the car and left, leaving Da-hoon standing there in confusion. That night, Da-hoon returned to the campsite. He wanted to search for information about Bit Na on the internet, along with information about demons. At that time, the judge had once said that no one would believe him anyway. This reminded Da-hoon of the past. After escaping from the murderer, no one believed his testimony. Da-hoon began to doubt himself. He threw the medical certificate results into the fire. At the same time, in a car on the road, the wife accidentally lost focus and caused the car to lose control. The whole car rushed into the deep sea. The husband quickly told his wife and children to climb onto the roof of the car. Water began to flood in and drown them. However, when it was the father's turn, the seatbelt was stuck. The husband shouted loudly for his wife to bring their son to shore. As soon as the son was safe, the wife turned back to save her husband. The water had now filled the entire car. The car gradually sank to the bottom. Under the pressure of the water, the wife could not open the car door. She painfully looked at her husband, who was crying for help. Because she was about to suffocate, she had to get to shore. The wife knelt down in the middle of the road and begged everyone to save her husband, but it was too late. The husband's funeral was quickly held. The angry mother-in-law beat her daughter-in-law for killing her son. She also wanted to take custody of her grandson. The wife knelt down and begged her mother-in-law to return her son to her. The mother-in-law could take as much money as she wanted. The case was quickly filed in court. The judge was frustrated that he had to handle an insurance dispute. The mother-in-law always showed a rude attitude. She didn't care about anyone at all. What she wanted was custody of her grandson. The judge got angry when she repeatedly challenged the authority of the court. The judge ordered someone to bring the mother-in-law out. She was angry to the point that rushed forward and continuously hit her daughter-in-law. She said that her daughter-in-law had received the insurance money and the man her daughter-in-law lived with before marrying her son. Why did he suddenly die? The mother-in-law asked her daughter-in-law if she had occupied everything. The judge accidentally heard the conversation. She was very happy that the case could be turned into a criminal case. The judge hurriedly returned to the office. She wanted to use the mirror to observe the wife's every move. It seemed that she had to meet the wife to talk. As soon as she stepped out of the office, the judge suddenly heard Da-hoon screaming. He deliberately used a loudspeaker to call the judge down to meet. The judge angrily scolded Da-hoon. She threatened him to to remember her true identity, but Da-hoon was not afraid at all. He calmly teased the judge. He wanted a chance to find out the truth about her. The judge warned Da-hoon not to follow her. Then the judge went to the school where the wife taught. She wanted to meet the wife to talk privately. The wife was curious about why the judge had to come here to find her in person. The judge smiled and said that she had heard that the wife was accused of killing her husband. The wife sadly recounted the first time she met her husband. At that time, the son was studying class which she was head teacher. The child's mother had passed away due to illness. Since then, the teacher gradually paid more attention to the child. The feelings between the wife and the husband began to grow. However, the accident ended that love. But what surprised the judge the most was that the mother-in-law had abandoned her own son. After 30 years, she appeared and asked to borrow money from her son many times. That was the reason she wanted to rob her grandson to get the insurance money. The judge felt uncomfortable when he heard the truth. Just when she was angry, Da-hoon came over. He deliberately followed the judge here. The judge rushed forward and grabbed Da-hoon by the neck and pinned him against the wall. She said that she had already warned him before. The terrifying power left Da-hoon unable to resist. However, he still joked with the judge, saying that she couldn't kill him, right? Looking at the judge's panicked expression, Da-hoon knew that he had guessed correctly. As soon as the judge got into the car, Da-hoon immediately followed. The judge was helpless and didn't know what to say. Da-hoon was also investigating the insurance case. The wife was the one who received 2 insurance policies. One was from her husband after the car accident. The other was from her ex-husband. Da-hoon suggested that the judge should meet the mother-in-law. However, the judge didn't want him to follow her. As soon as the sky started to brighten, the judge got dressed and prepared to go investigate. But what she didn't expect was that Da-hoon was there too. He said that he had been waiting for the judge since last night. The judge knew that she couldn't escape him. Before leaving, the judge destroyed Da-hoon's recording pen. Then she asked Da-hoon if he thought that using it would help him find evidence to prove that she was a devil. On the way, the two talked a lot. The judge said that since birth, devil don't have parents. But Da-hoon didn't seem to believe it. Suddenly, the judge told him to look into her eyes. Her eyes glowed a mysterious purple. Immediately, the dash cam mounted on the car was destroyed. Da-hoon was shocked when she demonstrated her ability. The two then went to see the mother-in-law. She is currently the owner of a small restaurant. When she saw the judge, she was unhappy. The judge mocked the mother-in-law that she had abandoned her son once. Now she even wanted to abandon her grandson. The mother-in-law was provoked by the judge. She immediately chased all the customers away. Then she led the judge home. Neither woman would give in. When she arrived, Da-hoon felt the familiar sound of the doorbell that his childhood memories came flooding back. The judge saw that Da-hoon was acting strangely, so he went in first. There was no one inside. The child really wasn't with the grandmother. She was angry when the judge didn't believe her. The judge suddenly checked the wardrobe. The child was already hiding inside. The judge asked why the mother-in-law why she was immure the grandson. She said that she was just taking care of him. The judge's purpose in coming here was not to take the boy away. The judge came here because he was curious about the wife's affairs. Why did the mother-in-law suspect the wife of killing her ex-husband? The mother-in-law said she had evidence. At her son's funeral, she saw her daughter-in-law cheating on her with another man. 3 days after the funeral, the wife gave her money and left the baby for 3 days. How could she stand that daughter-in-law? The judge laughed when he heard the evidence she gave. Only Da-hoon wanted to hear more of her story. As soon as the judge got angry, Da-hoon took out the cross from his body out. The bright light hurt her eyes. Then the child held her hand and took her to the beach to play. The boy said that his grandmother treated him very well. Suddenly the boy asked if good people would go to heaven when they died. However, the judge said that wouldn't happen. The child then showed her the pictures he drew. Suddenly the judge noticed something unusual in the picture. She asked the child that what person he drawn with his stepmother. However, the child didn't dare to answer. At the same time, Da-hoon was talking to her mother-in-law. She was heartbroken that her grandson had to live with an evil woman. The things that needed to be said had already been said. Da-hoon stepped in and called the judge go home. He was horrified when he saw the child covering the judge's face with a pillow. As soon as he picked up the child, the judge regained consciousness and said that she had thought it through. She asked the child if he could tell her about the night of the accident. The child remembered getting out of the car. He saw his mother glue the seatbelt. Then his stepmother deliberately drove the car into the deep sea. The child cried out in pain and called for his father, while his stepmother just stood there calmly watching the car sink. She threatened her son if he dared to tell anyone about this, she would kill his grandmother. The two were shocked when they learned the truth. Da-hoon comforted the boy. He understood that adults would not believe a child's testimony. The judge said that she would believe everything the child said. Da-hoon looked at the judge emotionally. Tears began to roll down his cheeks. The next court hearing had come. The judge had given the mother-in-law a suspended sentence. This made the stepmother angry. Although she had helped the mother-in-law, the legal guardianship was still in the hands of the stepmother. Since the day of the trial, the stepmother had repeatedly gone to her mother-in-law's house to demand her son. Each time, the mother-in-law resisted fiercely. One peaceful night, the stepmother put drugs in her mother-in-law's water bottle. As soon as her mother-in-law passed out, she took her son back. The frightened child faced the evil woman. She didn't know that Judge was watching everything. At the same time, in front of their house, Da-hoon was trying to break down the door to save the boy, but it was too late. Just as the stepmother was about to escape, the judge blocked her way. The judge coldly drew her sword and asked where the son was. It all started 4 days ago. After returning from her mother-in-law's house, Da-hoon went to talk to the judge. When he was young, no one believed what he said. She was the first person to believe a child. Now he understood that she was a good person. Even if she was a devil, he would believe her. The judge was surprised by Da-hoon's sudden change in attitude. After saying goodbye to Da-hoon, the judge asked his subordinates to go out to eat. They felt that the judge had been acting a bit strange lately. The warden asked the judge if she had feelings for Da-hoon, but the judge denied it. In hell, devils are not allowed to have feelings for humans. If anyone develops feelings against their will, they will be punished extremely brutally. A new day has begun. The judge is observing the stepmother. At this time, she is causing trouble in front of her mother-in-law's house. She and the police want to take the child to live with them. However, they were strongly opposed by their mother-in-law. At the same time, the grandson helped an old lady on the road. To thank the boy, the old lady gave him a bottle of water. However, the boy did not know that the old lady was his stepmother's lackey. She had put drugs in the bottle of water. That night, while the grandmother and grandson were sitting and talking, the filial boy offered his grandmother a bottle of water. The boy said that if she drank this, her leg would stop hurting. The grandmother was moved and drank the whole bottle of water. As soon as she finished drinking the bottle of water, the stepmother appeared in front of the house. The boy was scared when he saw the person who killed his father. Before being taken to the car, the boy called Da-hoon. The boy was scared and said that his mother had brought him back here. At this time, the phone was turned off. Da-hoon and the police quickly set out to find the boy. He knocked on the door but no one answered. At this time, the operator reported that they had found the location where the boy had called. When Da-hoon ran to the location, he saw the boy sitting in a corner shivering from the cold. He quickly took his shirt and put it on the boy. At the same time, a strange number called the stepmother. The mysterious person said that they had evidence proving that the stepmother had killed the husband. She was furious that someone dared to interfere with her plans. It was obvious that only she knew what she had done, from putting drugs in the water bottle to threatening the son. There was one thing she did not expect. As soon as she left, the boy quickly contacted the police. The boy had overcome his fear. Da-hoon comforted the boy for his courage. Let the adults take care of everything from now on. The judge was ready to meet the stepmother. As the stepmother drove to the meeting place, the dead husband's car suddenly surfaced on the water. She was frightened as the car sped towards her. The door slowly opened. The judge confidently stepped out, her eyes determined and her attitude resolute. The stepmother now realized that she had been tricked. The judge ordered her assistant to go first. When there were only 2 people left, the judge pulled out a sword from thin air. The stepmother was frightened as the judge had strange powers. The judge smiled and threatened the stepmother with the sword. However, she still stubbornly refused to admit her guilt. For every lie, the judge sent the stepmother flying. The judge angrily grabbed the stepmother by the neck and threw her into the car. Water began to flood the car. The frightened stepmother begged the judge to spare her life. However, the judge only smiled and closed the sunroof. The car slowly sank to the bottom of the lake under the weight of the water. The stepmother tried to open the car door to escape but couldn't. She screamed in pain and despair. The air was running out. She slowly fell into a coma, just like what she did to her husband. Suddenly, the stepmother woke up. She found herself sitting in front of the judge, so she quickly crawled to the judge and confessed all her crimes. The judge promised that if she told everything, including her ex-husband, she would let her go. The stepmother said that she was tired of her marriage with her ex-husband. Just because of the house, that she knocked her ex-husband out and she even pushed him off a cliff, then made it look like an accident to get the insurance money. After taking over the apartment, she coincidentally met an innocent man, ignoring that the man already had a child. The judge was curious as to why the stepmother brought the child back. The stepmother said that she felt guilty about her husband's child, so she took the boy home to raise. The judge was furious that the stepmother dared to lie to her. She rushed over and beat this evil woman up. She questioned the stepmother about how she said she loved her stepchild, but forced the child to kneel and then even deliberately drowned the child in the bathtub. The judge punched the evil woman in the face. She was furious at the beating. The judge asked her if she admitted to all the crimes she had committed. She showed no remorse at all. The judge's eyes lit up. Now she will have to experience the most horrible feeling in hell. In a blink of an eye, she found herself standing on the edge of a cliff. The judge smiled and asked her if she should let go. The stepmother freely fell down the cliff in panic, but as soon as she opened her eyes, she saw the judge in the role of the son. The judge laughed and got the stepmother under. Before she could react, she found herself tied to a chair. The judge happily put drugs in the cup of water and forced her to drink it. The drugs gradually took effect, making her unconscious. At this moment, the judge took a syringe and stabbed her. The scream of pain brought the stepmother back to the present. After going through all kinds of torture, the judge took a knife and stabbed the evil stepmother to death. The gates of hell were opened once again. Her soul was sucked into hell forever. After dealing with the murderer, the cleaning team came to erase the traces. The next day, people discovered the woman's body in front of the police station. The news scared everyone. The judge was happy that people were talking about the mysterious body, but the real reason she left the body near the police station was to get Da-hoon come to meet her. To prepare for the appointment, the judge went shopping with her subordinates. At the same time at the crime scene, Da-hoon suddenly realized that the stab wound was similar to the one caused by the judge. The murder method in both cases was the same. The judge quickly came under the police's attention. At this moment the congressman came to see her. He wanted to invite the judge to dinner. If she showed up, he would tell her everything that happened before. The judge was curious, so he accepted the invitation. When she arrived at the congressman's private villa, while everyone was praying, the judge naturally ate and drank to his heart's content. The congressman laughed when he saw that she liked to eat and drink so much. The congressman felt that she had changed a lot. The judge was curious about her past. The congressman said that her family ran a Japanese restaurant abroad. Surprisingly, he asked her if she was no longer interested in politics. She was surprised that he had chosen her as his successor, but there was one thing she still wondered about. Why couldn't she find any news about the day of her accident? The congressman said that he had blocked the news. He didn't want outsiders to spread false rumors. The party was over. The judge drove back. She also brought a lot of delicious food for the warden. Seeing the subordinates eat delicious food made her happy. The body that the warden was using had lived a miserable life, so in this new life, the warden could reclaim justice for the body. A new day began. The judge had been focused on her work since early morning. Suddenly she received a call from the receptionist, saying that an inspector wanted to invite her to the station to cooperate with the investigation. When she arrived, the judge was disappointed to see Da-hoon directly investigating her. The police suspected the judge of being the perpetrator of the two cases, but she quickly shifted the suspicion to Da-hoon. It was clear that he was the one who had contact with the victims before they died. Everyone felt that the judge was right. She wondered if Da-hoon was happy that the stepmother was dead, but Da-hoon said that he felt angry that the perpetrator was not punished by law. Just as he was about to leave, the judge got into Da-hoon's car. She eagerly recounted her meeting with the congressman, but Da-hoon seemed uninterested. Da-hoon still suspected that the judge was the perpetrator. However, the judge said that she was not the perpetrator. Even though the judge destroyed his camera, Da-hoon was not angry. He took her home. Suddenly, an old woman appeared and said that the two of them should not be near each other, otherwise one of them would die. Da-hoon was surprised when she knew that he had died before. Soon after, the old woman left, leaving the two of them alone. Da-hoon remembered the feeling of being stabbed by the judge. While he was having trouble sleeping, his family appeared. His sister curiously asked if he had a girlfriend. Da-hoon was surprised when his older sister told the younger sister the story. These moments with his family helped Da-hoon feel more comfortable. The next day, the warden presented the judge with an unsolved case. The murderer was a serial killer. The only witness was the victim's son. However, the case had happened a long time ago. The judge did not expect that the case the warden mentioned was related to Da-hoon. At the time, Da-hoon was investigating the case of her stepmother, but no witnesses were found. While examining the crime scene, Da-hoon noticed that the can was crushed in the same way the judge crushed it. This made him even more suspicious of the judge. So he went to the judge's house to talk. He really wanted to know her true personality. Suddenly the judge felt pain. The pain was so excruciating that the judge gradually collapsed. Da-hoon quickly knelt down to support her. The judge's heart began to beat rapidly. She gradually fainted in his arms. Da-hoon was worried when he saw the judge's condition. He quickly carried the judge on his back to the nearest hospital. After the judge was taken to the hospital, her subordinates rushed to visit her. Suddenly the judge opened her eyes. Da-hoon thoughtfully asked her if she was okay. Suddenly the judge sat up, that scaring everyone. She checked her heart rate, but everything was normal. The judge couldn't understand herself anymore. In order to clarify the reason why she fainted, the judge went to see the head of the department. However, the head of the department said that the test results were normal. The judge was very worried because at that time her heart felt like it was about to fall out. The head of the department asked her if she had felt any stress recently. It was possible that before she fainted, the judge had been under great pressure from the outside. The judge was startled and remembered that when Da-hoon opened the door and stepped forward, his voice made the judge unable to control herself. The doctor advised her to avoid those irritants, but the two of them had to investigate the case together, and the judge couldn't just suddenly dismiss Da-hoon. The doctor smiled and said that if so, she would have to learn to adapt. After returning from the examination, at the head of the department's room, the judge was pushed in a wheelchair by her subordinates. This surprised Da-hoon when the judge's health became abnormal. The warden was annoyed that Da-hoon kept showing up here. Da-hoon said that today was the judge's discharge day, so he came to visit. Suddenly the judge stood up and said that let's go to work, that she also had something to ask him. In the car, the judge drank the entire can of soda as usual. Seeing her crush the can made Da-hoon suspicious. The judge asked why Da-hoon came to see her. Da-hoon said that he wanted to confirm what kind of person the judge was. When the judge heard this, she felt a little surprised. Da-hoon then drove the judge home. They met an old lady next door. The relationship between the judge and this old lady was not good at all. The two argued as soon as they met. Luckily, Da-hoon intervened in time. The judge did not expect that Da-hoon had bought the room across from her house. Now the two of them are neighbors. The reason he moved here is to find out the truth. Is the judge the murderer? The judge was also aware that Da-hoon suspected her, so she ordered her subordinates to investigate Da-hoon Da-hoon's identity. That night, the judge had an appointment with the warden. As soon as she opened the door to go out, Da-hoon secretly followed her. The judge smiled when someone daring to follow her, so she turned into a small alley. Da-hoon hurriedly ran after her to check, but he was easily distracted by the judge. The judge then went to the convenience store, where the warden worked part-time. The warden laughed at Da-hoon following the judge. The warden offered to let her handle Da-hoon, but the judge refused. The warden asked if the judge was free this weekend. The judge was surprised when the warden said there would be a closed meeting this weekend. It seemed that Satan had stolen something very important in hell and escaped. The warden said that if they caught Satan and handed him over to the Lord High Steward, they would most likely be able to return to hell. As scheduled, the three of them arrived at the meeting place early in the morning. Even Da-hoon knew about it. He secretly followed the judge into a restaurant. Da-hoon carefully entered and checked each room, but it was completely empty. Suddenly he felt a strong power. Da-hoon opened the door and rushed in, that he saw everyone was holding weapons. The manager was annoyed that someone dared to barge in. He pulled out a knife from hell and walked in front of Da-hoon. Da-hoon fearfully said that he was a police officer investigating a case. The manager asked why Da-hoon was here. He fearfully looked at the judge for help. The judge said that Da-hoon was her driver. The manager was angry at her arrogant attitude, but as soon as he knew the identity of the judge, the poor manager was extremely surprised. In hell, the judge is everyone's idol. The judge turned to Da-hoon and told him to be careful. There were only demons under the hell here. Seeing the demons showing off their power made Da-hoon scared. The judge was annoyed and wanted to kick him out, but Da-hoon refused. At this moment, the manager appeared and asked Da-hoon if he knew where Satan was. Da-hoon was confused and didn't understand what he was talking about. The judge quickly saved the day, saying that Da-hoon was just born and didn't know anything. The manager began to recount that 26 years ago, after Lucifer became the Lord of Hell, Satan, the second co-leader along with the Lord High Steward, rebelled against Lucifer. A fierce battle took place in hell. However, Satan could not resist the Lord, so he abandoned all his subordinates and escaped from hell. Before leaving, he stole Lucifer's treasure, the Immortality Stone. As long as Satan possessed the stone, he could live forever in human form. However, he had to pay a proportional price. In order to avoid Lucifer's pursuit, Satan had to hide in the lightning bolts. In a moment of carelessness, Satan dropped the stone to the mortal world. Since then, no one has heard of his whereabouts again. The judge was drowsy while listening to the manager's story. The demons gathered here to share information about Satan. Da-hoon did not expect the judge's status to be so noble. Da-hoon was curious about what the judge's mission was. The judge angrily walked up to Da-hoon and told him to leave if he did not want to die. But Da-hoon did not want to give up this good opportunity. They then went to give free meals to the people here. When Da-hoon was left alone with the manager pushed him against the wall. The manager was angry when Da-hoon saw him shed tears. In hell, if a demon sheds a single tear, he will be killed immediately. Da-hoon said that he would keep secret for the manager. The manager also knew Da-hoon's true identity. He was not a demon. Before the manager left, he advised Da-hoon to stay away from the judge. However, Da-hoon went against the manager's advice. He kept clinging to the judge and confessed his love. Upon hearing these words, the judge's body became weak. The manager was surprised to see the judge in such a state. That night, Da-hoon hurriedly returned to the police station. He tried to explain to everyone that he had encountered a devil's lair, but his colleagues ridiculed Da-hoon for having mental problems. His superiors asked Da-hoon to find evidence, otherwise all his words would be meaningless. The only evidence Da-hoon had was the soda can at the crime scene. At this moment in the rescue room, they received a distress call. When the police arrived, they were stunned to see the crime scene. The family of 4 was left with only the father. He was heartbroken that his wife and children were dead. Suddenly, he said that he knew who the murderer was. As soon as the police asked for the murderer's identity, he smiled wickedly and said that he had killed them. Da-hoon and his superiors quickly went to the crime scene. Inside were the corpses of 3 people. Blood had stained the floor. Da-hoon looked sadly at the pictures hanging on the wall. This case reminded him of his own past. The crime scene was similar to what his family had experienced. His superiors advised Da-hoon not to get involved in this case, but he did not listen to them. Da-hoon asked where the suspect was. At the same time at the police station, the suspect was being closely interrogated. His fingerprints were found on the murder weapon. However, the suspect said that he did not remember anything. His mind became unstable. The statements did not match each other. In order to investigate the case further, Da-hoon personally questioned him. Suddenly, the suspect's attitude changed. Now he was like a child who did not know where he was. Da-hoon was puzzled when he saw the suspect's appearance, as if he was talking to himself. The constant change in personality surprised everyone. Da-hoon gradually became impatient. He seriously asked the suspect if he had killed his entire family. The suspect still maintained his innocence. He was the one who had freed his entire family. His defiant attitude made Da-hoon furious. Suddenly, the suspect burst into tears and begged the police. He jumped up from his chair and hit himself in the face. Only when the suspect passed out did Da-hoon come to check on him. The suspect woke up in a daze, not knowing where he was. This was the first time the police had encountered such a case. The results of the psychiatric examination were also available. It was very possible that he had temporary amnesia. After the suspect's mind calmed down, Da-hoon continued the interrogation. Da-hoon had never told the suspect that he was a police officer. officer. So how did the other personalities know Da-hoon's identity? The suspect knew that he had revealed his loopholes, so he quickly explained that he was just guessing that. A new day began. Early in the morning, the judge was disturbed by her colleagues. The judge curiously asked everyone if they had ever felt their hearts beating fast. They all thought that the judge was just overworked. The judge was annoyed and went to the office. She wanted to hear what information the assistant had investigated. First was the attack at the harbor, but there were no casualties. The judge was angry when the assistant couldn't find any murder cases. The assistant said that there was a serious case. The murderer had murdered his entire family. The judge was excited when she found a case with many victims. She ordered the assistant to quickly investigate the information of this case. That night, the assistant pretended to be a journalist and went to the police station. After the investigation, the assistant reported the results to the judge. She wrote the murderer's name on the magic mirror. He was now locked up in prison. Looking at his strange expression, the judge was curious about what was wrong with him. The assistant explained that he was suffering from a personality disorder, but the judge didn't care. Her job was to send murderers to hell. In order to take the case, the judge called to the congressman for help. The eldest son was upset that the judge kept using his father, but the judge just laughed and said it was an investment in the future. The next day, the victim's mother came to visit. At first, the suspect was still scared and said that he was not the murderer, but in the blink of an eye, his attitude changed. He thought that everything was because the mother did not raise her daughter well. He should have killed her first. The victim's mother collapsed when her son-in-law could do such a thing. On the way home, she had a heart attack and fainted because of the shock. At the same time at the police station, the inspectors were holding a meeting to investigate the case. The murderer had acted cruelly. This reminded Da-hoon of his painful past. When he was still a child, Da-hoon had witnessed the murder of his family. That night, after finishing work, Da-hoon was surprised to see the judge waiting for her at the gate. She said that she was just taking out the trash. Da-hoon told her to perform well for the trial tomorrow. The trial began. The judge asked the prosecutor to read the suspect's charges. Just as the suspect was about to plead guilty, the defense attorney stopped him. The attorney said that his client had a personality disorder. The judge looked straight into the suspect's eyes. She asked him if he had murdered his family. The suspect was afraid and avoided the judge's eyes. He muttered that he was not the murderer. The attorney sitting next to him told him to be quiet. As soon as the attorney stood up, the suspect went crazy and attacked the defense attorney. The trial gradually fell into chaos. The judge was curious about his behavior. The guards rushed in to restrain the defendant. All of suspect's personalities were shown. He asked the judge if she had finished watching the play. The trial had to be adjourned to await the results of the suspect's psychiatric examination. As soon as the suspect was brought out, a crowd of reporters surrounded him. The suspect cried and said that he was innocent. The suspect didn't know he had become the devil's target. The judge went to see the suspect after the trial ended. Despite the guards saying that he was not normal, the judge still signaled that she was fine. She coldly walked in front of the suspect. The judge asked him which personality he was now. The suspect was confused and didn't understand what the judge said. The judge smiled and said that if he could call out his evil personality, she would set him free. As soon as the judge turned to leave, the evil personality appeared. The judge smiled and asked if he had killed his entire family. He admitted it with an evil smile. The judge still wanted to continue meeting the child personality. When she saw the child personality hiding in the criminal's body, the judge laughed and left. She returned to her office, thinking that personality disorders could be separated. This was really interesting. At night, while he was being treated in the hospital, the suspect was scared when he saw the judge appear in his room in the middle of the night. He asked her in fear what she was doing here. The judge smiled and said that she was here to kill him. The judge did not expect that Da-hoon was hiding under the bed. He held his breath and watched the judge's actions. The judge's eyes began to turn purple, and the sword from hell slowly appeared. The suspect was terrified when he witnessed the judge's power. Just as the judge was about to take him to hell, an arm reached out from under the bed and grabbed her leg. The judge recognized that it was the inspector, so she turned and ran away. Da-hoon quickly ran to catch the judge, but she pushed him away. Da-hoon quickly chased after the familiar figure, but when the judge turned onto another path, Da-hoon quickly ran to grab the nurse's hand. The hospital lights turned on again, and the person in front of Da-hoon was not the judge. He was confused as to where she had gone. At the same time, the judge was on the emergency stairs. She was surprised that Da-hoon already knew her plan. The warden was waiting outside to assist. The two quickly retreated from the hospital. The judge changed her clothes and went home. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out. Da-hoon was already sitting at the door waiting for her. He coldly asked where she had been. The judge said that she had just gone for a walk. Da-hoon repeated the same words that the judge had just said to the suspect. It was clearly that she had barged into the suspect's hospital room. The judge laughed and asked why Da-hoon was protecting a bastard who had murdered his entire family. Da-hoon said that he was just doing his job. The judge smiled and walked towards Da-hoon. She asked him if he had evidence that she had been in the hospital, and if he wanted to arrest her, he should at least bring the evidence to her. A new day had begun. Today was the day of the suspect's trial. The judge was surprised that Da-hoon did not appear in court. The trial officially began. The judge asked the suspect if he had anything to say. He appeared scared and said that he would absolutely not kill his wife and children. Seeing his hateful expression made the judge feel contemptuous. tumultuous. Just as the judge read the final verdict for the suspect, the court door suddenly opened. Da-hoon walked in from outside, shouting that the suspect was the murderer. Despite the guards trying to stop Da-hoon from causing trouble, he didn't care, and continued to announce the evidence he had found. The police found evidence on his son's phone that proved the suspect wasn't a multiple personality. The judge was annoyed that he came here to cause trouble in the middle of the session. It turned out that before the trial, Da-hoon had tried to check the data inside the phone. The judge angrily ordered the security guard to take Da-hoon out, but that was not enough to stop Da-hoon. Da-hoon played the last recording on the victim's phone. The innocent child asked if his father was going to kill him. The killer's voice smiled wickedly. He said that the thing he regretted the most was giving birth to a son. What child would call the police after being beaten just a little bit? The ruthless killer murdered his own son. At this moment, the wife opened the door and walked in. She was horrified to see her son lying on the floor with blood stains. As soon as she turned around to scold her husband, he killed his wife without hesitation. The remaining person was the youngest child in the family. At this time, the daughter was sleeping soundly. Suddenly, a loud noise woke her up. When the daughter opened the door and stepped out, the cruel father took a knife and went to kill her. The entire court was shocked by the evidence presented. Everyone wondered how he could be so cruel. Da-hoon asked the judge to accept this decisive evidence. The judge angrily adjourned the court. She vented her anger into a drinking glass, scaring her subordinates. After regaining her composure, the judge returned to the court. Before announcing the sentence, she asked the suspect to make a final excuse. The judge asked the suspect how he felt when he heard his wife's screams again. He was a man who often beat his wife and children. Even in the elevator, he could not control his cruelty. The suspect argued that until now, he had always lived for his family. The judge was annoyed and got off in front of him. She asked him to say it again. The suspect went crazy when asked many times. He rushed to strangle the judge. The security guards quickly rushed to restrain the suspect. The judge smiled with satisfaction when she achieved her goal. The judge returned to her seat. She loudly read the final verdict for the suspect. He had murdered his wife and 2 children, so a heavy sentence was inevitable. However, before he became unemployed, he had worked very hard to support his family, and this was his first crime, with no previous convictions. In addition, the evidence was submitted in the middle of the trial, so it was not accepted. After reviewing his medical records for multiple personality disorder, the judge declared the suspect innocent. However, he will be placed on probation for 2 years. Da-hoon was furious that the judge had made such an unreasonable decision. Not only Da-hoon, that everyone in the courtroom felt it was unfair, especially the victim's family. The mother asked the judge in pain that if her relative was murdered, would she have given the same sentence to the murderer? The judge just smiled and left, ignoring the screams of the victim's family. Suddenly, the judge saw Da-hoon's eyes. Her body felt uncomfortable. She quickly returned to her office. Her heart once again lost control. Even the assistant did not understand why the judge declared the suspect innocent. The judge said that she was only relying on the evidence. She had other plans for the suspect. After the trial ended, Da-hoon escorted the suspect back to the detention center. He remembered the time the judge provoked the suspect. It was obvious that she did it on purpose. At this moment, he suddenly saw a truck speeding towards the police car. Da-hoon shouted loudly to warn everyone to stop. Luckily, the car stopped in time before the truck arrived, but when they had only gone 2 meters, another truck came and crashed head-on, causing the car to flip over. The police quickly surrounded that truck. From inside, 2 men in black got out. They rushed forward to beat the police. With just a light jump, they flew onto the roof of the car. After regaining his senses, Da-hoon chased after the 2 men in black. He fired a warning shot into the air, but one of the men in black grabbed the suspect and jumped down. The other rushed forward to stop Da-hoon. Even though he had handcuffed one of them to an iron bar, they were still able to escape easily. Da-hoon was lifted into the air by the overwhelming power of the demon. He struggled weakly against their strength. The demon threw Da-hoon aside, then forced the suspect into the car and fled. A loud explosion destroyed the police cars. Smoke and fire filled the sky. The suspect was then brought before the warden. It turned out that they were the warden's subordinates. She smiled as she caught the murderer. Da-hoon's injuries made his colleagues worried, but instead of resting, Da-hoon went to see the judge's assistant. Da-hoon asked if the car was attacked by the judge's orders, but the assistant quickly ran away before he could tell everything. Da-hoon scratched his head in frustration at not finding any evidence. He then drove back to the apartment. The judge was waiting for him downstairs, worried about his injuries. Da-hoon was upset that she wanted to kill him. The judge was happy that he was fine. Da-hoon asked why she didn't use the recording as evidence. The judge explained that she was just following the rules. Da-hoon loudly asked if this was her plan. Da-hoon was so angry that he said the words that hurt the judge. She angrily ran upstairs. Da-hoon didn't let go and chased after her. He set up a chair in front of the judge's house to keep watch. He couldn't give the judge another chance to kill. When the clock struck midnight, a loud noise caught Da-hoon's attention. He quickly knocked on the door to check if the judge was home, but no one answered. Just as Da-hoon was about to leave, the judge's voice rang out. Da-hoon was a little suspicious when she spoke more gently than usual. It turned out that the person inside wasn't the judge. The assistant had used his voice imitation ability to fool Da-hoon. However, he still felt suspicious. He quickly ran outside to check. Luckily, the assistant had had pulled up the rope in time before being discovered. At this moment, the suspect woke up in fear. The person standing in front of him was the judge. She smiled and picked up the firewood axe. The judge asked him if he knew why hellfire was always burning. Because it used people like him as fuel. The suspect ran away in panic, but he ended up in another world. Here, the judge used the personality of a child to talk to the suspect. He still pretended not to remember anything. The judge innocently stabbed his hand with a pen. The suspect painfully opened the door to escape, but no matter where he ran, he could not escape the judge. Even when he entered the fateful elevator, the suspect angrily attacked the judge. However, he was no match for her. The suspect was beaten up in the elevator. He deliberately pretended to be crazy to beg for mercy. The judge did not stop at all. She continued to hit the suspect hard. He painfully crawled out of the elevator. When the suspect saw the judge sitting on the bench laughing, he panicked and ran into a nearby room. He didn't expect to find himself in his own house. The judge walked over and confiscated his phone. The suspect knelt down and begged her to forgive him. However, the judge did not care. She used a hammer to hit the suspect on the head. He staggered back to the original room. All the wounds had disappeared. Suddenly, a rope hung him upside down. The judge stepped forward, saying that the trial was just starting from now. He wondered what had happened just now. Was the judge teasing him? The suspect angrily rushed forward to hit the judge. She calmly picked up a chair and beat him up, until now that the suspect started being scared. She asked him to do a simple calculation. The result was the number of stab wounds he had caused. The suspect was scared and begged her to stop, but the judge was not merciful to murderers. The sky had turned bright. The suspect was covered in blood. The judge asked him the last question, if he regretted it. The suspect said that he would go to hell to apologize to his family. The judge said that he would not be able to see his family because they had already gone to heaven. Then the knife slowly appeared. The judge did not know whether to brand him first or kill him first. Because of his crimes, the judge decided to brand him first and then kill him. The excruciating pain quickly ended his life. The gates of hell opened, sucking his soul forever. A new day began. Until this time, Da-hoon suddenly woke up. The judge came out of the house and asked him if he had slept well. At that moment, a colleague called to report that the murderer had died. Da-hoon was stunned as he watched the judge walk by. Then he went to the scene. The method of the crime was similar to the previous cases. The judge laughed with satisfaction as the news reported the case. Now, the judge had time to rest. She asked her assistant to report the information had found about Bitna. Bitna was a good and diligent student, but she had no friends. The warden curiously asked who the murderer was, who stabbed Bitna to death. The assistant said that the case was classified as top secret and had not been solved yet. Even the reason why Bitna broke off her engagement to the congressman's son, no one knew what really happened. A new day began. Da-hoon wanted to find out information about the devil, so she went to see the manager. But when she arrived at the manager's workplace, the colleague reported that the manager had died. Da-hoon was confused and didn't understand what was happening. It turned out that last night, when the manager went home, the warden broke into the manager's house. She knew that the manager had feelings for a human, so she secretly collected evidence. The real job of the warden was to deal with demons with love feelings. The manager was so angry that he wanted to stab the warden to death, but he couldn't do it. The warden threatened to kill the manager's lover. The warden promised that if he returned to hell to be judged, she would spare the manager's lover. He accepted the deal. A loud noise woke up everyone around. They were scared when they saw the manager dead on the roof of the car. It was thought that everything would go smoothly without being discovered, but the person cleaning the scene came to inform the wardens that while cleaning the scene, they discovered the suspect's brutally murdered body. It was as if the judge had put his emotions into the punishment. At the same time, at the suspect's house, the judge secretly followed the victim's family. She was about to cry because of emotion. Suddenly, Da-hoon appeared there. He asked why the judge killed the manager. The judge said that she did not do it, but Da-hoon did not believe her. He thought that demons were evil creatures. Da-hoon promised that one day he would catch her. The judge angrily went home. At this moment, the eldest son of the congressman drove to find the judge. He wanted to invite the judge to dinner. However, the judge was not interested in him. The eldest son told her not to get involved in his family's affairs anymore. His purpose in coming here was to convince her to move. The land she was living on was part of the construction plan, but the judge refused. Before leaving, the eldest son warned the judge to be careful when walking on that street. At the same time, while returning home, a woman became the target of the masked man. He ambushed in a small alley, waiting for the woman to come forward. As soon as the woman passed by, he dragged the woman into the darkness. The masked man pulled out his prepared weapon. He ignored the woman's pleas for mercy. Without hesitation, he intended to kill the woman. At this moment, the neighbors came home from work. They screamed loudly when they saw the man holding a knife. The masked man was furious and rushed forward to kill those who got in his way. But when he saw that he was being recorded by the camera, the masked man quickly fled the scene. The woman was then taken to the police station for questioning. Her mind had already calmed down. The inspector asked her if she could remember the masked man's face. The woman described his height in fear, but there was one thing that made the woman curious. The masked man used a very strange Knife. The inspector asked the woman to draw the knife. The inspector remembered that having seen it once before. That knife was the weapon of the murderer who killed Dahoon's family. Finally, he had reappeared. A new day began. Dahoon had visited his family's grave since the early morning. Suddenly, he heard voices nearby. Dahoon was surprised to see his superior there. He was moved by his superior's words. After returning from the grave visit, the two went to the police station for an emergency meeting. They were still investigating the recent murder cases. The biggest question was the murder weapon. Nowhere in the country did weapons with such a mark have been manufactured. In addition, the murders only happened in places where there were no cameras, or the cameras were broken. Dahoon encouraged everyone that they would find clues soon. Surprisingly, that his colleagues said that there was a boycott of the judge. More and more old men gathered in front of the prosecutor's office. They were all angry at the judge's decisions, but the judge didn't care that she was being fiercely attacked. Even her superior was surprised by her calm attitude. The judge asked her superior for a few days off. Just after leaving the superior's office, the assistant ran over, curious about the judge's attack, but he had a more important matter. He suspected that the warden's true identity was Satan, who had escaped from hell many years ago, but the judge did not believe the assistant's words. Such an absurd thing could not happen. The judge angrily left the office. At the same time, in front of the high school gate, two female students were trying to rob a girl of her money. The girl was scared and shouted for help. At this moment, an arm blocked their fists. The two female students were angry that someone dared to interfere in their business. They rushed in front of the judge with a defiant look. The judge coldly pinched the two female students' ears and taught them a lesson. The judge was feeling uncomfortable, but someone kept bothering her. She had no idea that the person she had just saved was the daughter of Dahoon's elder sister. The group then went to the police station to resolve the conflict. Dahoon was surprised that the judge was also involved in this matter. A moment later, the parents of the two female students were called. They were furious that their daughters were beaten so brutally. They screamed as if they wanted to beat the judge. Despite the girl's explanation, the parents only considered it a joke of the children. They insisted on suing the judge in court. The judge just laughed when she saw the mother and daughter's similar personalities. The policeman then revealed that Bitna was the judge. Upon hearing her title, the parents were scared that their children had bumped into the wrong person. After dealing with the two girls, the mother called her daughter out. She angrily asked why her daughter had come to this area. She had clearly told her never to go there. The girl was out of sorts when her mother scolded her like that. It was obvious that she was the one who was harmed. The argument between mother and daughter had attracted the judge's attention. Until now, did the mother have time to thank the judge for helping her daughter. That night, Dahoon went to see the old lady next door. He wondered how the old lady next door knew that if he went with the judge, one of them would die. Before the old lady could explain, Dahoon revealed the truth. The judge's true identity was a devil. She had already killed him once. The old lady was not too surprised by this truth. She told him that she had known Dahoon's parents before. Although they lived in poverty, their feelings had not changed. Dahoon was surprised that the old lady knew so much about his parents. Many years ago, they had asked the old lady to protect Dahoon. Therefore, the old lady told him to leave this place immediately, especially never to go near the judge. Dahoon was puzzled by the old woman's words. He bowed his head to say goodbye to her and left. As soon as Dahoon left, the old lady looked straight into the mirror. Her true form gradually appeared in the mirror. Dahoon sadly went upstairs. At this moment, the judge returned. She deliberately started a conversation with Dahoon. She said that she would not go on the mountain climbing trip tomorrow. She did not want to go with someone who always thought she was a murderer. Dahoon did not want to care about what the judge said. Even though she had bluntly declared that she would not participate, the judge finally appeared. Dahoon wanted to help the judge pawn something, but was refused. She was still angry that he suspected her of killing the manager. The judge curiously asked why he always suspected her. Dahoon had her reasons too. More than anyone, he knew the judge's true identity. She was the great powerful evil in hell, but sometimes he felt that she was the kindest person in the world. Dahoon sat down and confided in the judge. He told her about the murder of his family 10 years ago. Dahoon always blamed himself when his whole family died protecting him. The judge comforted Dahoon that he didn't kill them. If he was really guilty, he would be in hell by now. That night, everyone held a party on the rooftop to celebrate. In his drunken state, Dahoon lost control of his actions. He told everyone about the first time he met the judge. This embarrassed the judge. She tried to cover Dahoon's mouth, but he pushed her away. The party finally ended. The judge carried Dahoon downstairs in annoyance. She gently put him down on the bed. Just as she was about to leave, Dahoon grabbed the judge's hand. In his drunken state, he spoke the truth. The judge was the first woman who made his heart flutter. Although he really wanted to catch her, his heart wouldn't allow it. The judge shyly withdrew his hand. She walked around to find a blanket for Dahoon. Suddenly a can of soda fell to the ground. The judge curiously picked it up and looked at it. It turned out to be the can left at the crime scene. The judge was annoyed that Dahoon had lied to her all this time. The judge took out all her anger on the assistant. She had clearly given the can to the assistant to handle. The warden was furious that the assistant dared to ruin the judge's business. The assistant was scared and begged them to forgive him. The judge was surprised to see the warden carrying an iron hammer. The warden said that she used it to punish criminals. After the sentence was served, the judge began to question the assistant. It was clear that Da-hoon had evidence to convict her, so he moved to live across the street from her house. The assistant worriedly asked what he should do now. The warden suggested that the judge let her deal with Da-hoon, but the judge refused. Now the top priority was to return to hell. The judge stepped in front of the assistant and warned him that this was the last time she would pardon the assistant. After the judge left, the warden felt that the judge was very strange today. Could it be that the judge had feelings for Da-hoon? A new day has begun. Today is the day of the award ceremony for the outstanding director. The person honored with this noble title is the director of the food company. On the way back to the company, the director accidentally saw an injured dog. It was his act of saving the dog that made the director score points in the media. Although on the outside, the director appeared to be a successful person, deep inside, the director was a cruel person. A group of old men always surrounded the food company. They wanted the director to take responsibility for his waste disposal. Instead of publicly admitting his mistake, the director ordered the leader of the protest, an old man, to be brought to his private villa. The old man timidly entered the billion-dollar villa. When he saw the director, the old man was too scared to say a word. The director raised his voice to introduce his dog, which was killed and locked in a birdcage because it refused to listen. The director then invited the old man to the dining room. The director gave the old man a large sum of money to end the protest, but the old man's goal was not money. During this time, many workers had lost their lives while working at the construction site. The director angrily took the kettle of hot water and held it in front of the old man. The director threatened that if the old man did not do as he said, he would bear all the consequences. The old man was scared and quickly ran away from the villa. At this moment, a car arrived. A group of thugs opened the door and rushed to arrest the old man. They were the director's henchmen. The old man was taken to a separate area. In front of the old man was the director. The director did not hesitate to hit the ball at the old man. The old man knelt down in pain and begged for his life, but the director did not want to stop this pleasure. The director continuously hit the ball with great force at the old man. After many hours of suffering physical pain, the old man was finally released. The old man dragged himself on the way home. Because he was too tired, he fell down. At this moment, a car rushed over and ended the old man's life. The old man's family was worried because he had not returned yet, but when the police came to report the case, they couldn't solve it because the old man had only been gone for a day. This worried the old man's daughter. The old man's arrest was quickly discovered. The media suspected that the director was the mastermind behind this. Although he had no interest in other people's business, the judge was asked by her colleagues in the cleaning team to find the old man. They had a very good relationship with the old man's family. The judge agreed out of respect. The cleaning team showed the judge a photo of the director. They suspected that the director was the one who killed the old man. The judge used her power to search for information, but no image of the old man appeared. This proved that he was dead. At the same time, people accidentally discovered the old man's body in a remote mountain. Although the director had committed a terrible crime, the director still calmly answered the reporters' questions. The director bowed his head and said that he would cooperate with the police investigation. Da-hoon personally interrogated the director with the inspector. The inspector asked why the director had deposited a large sum of money into the old man's account, but the director did not answer anything. The lawyer used his right to deny the baseless accusations. Da-hoon uncomfortably took out the old man's tape recorder, which recorded the old man's miserable cries. The director said that they had gone to dinner and played golf together that day. The inspector seriously asked the director if he had beaten the old man, but the director firmly denied it. That much evidence was not enough to charge the director with murder. The director even tried to imply that the protesters were just lowlifes. This made Da-hoon furious. The police were forced to release the director due to lack of evidence. At this moment, the chief called. He asked the inspector to cover up the director's case, but the inspector refused. She was determined not to let the director be at peace. The inspector and Da-hoon then went to the rooftop to get some fresh air. Da-hoon was extremely dissatisfied that they had powerful people protecting them. The inspector asked Da-hoon not to act arbitrarily. Meanwhile, at the congressman's villa, the director's father knelt before the congressman to ask for help. The congressman said that he could not change the law, but when the director's father said that he would hand over some land, the congressman happily agreed. The case was immediately handed over to the judge, having sole discretion. A trial was quickly held. The only evidence was a tape recorder. Basically, the director could not be charged with murder. Even the prosecutor had been bribed by power. The judge was frustrated and asked the director why he hit the old man with a golf ball. The director said that it was just an accident. The judge seriously asked the director if he knew about the old man's suicide, but the director calmly admitted that he did not know. The case gradually fell into a deadlock. The judge was frustrated and adjourned the hearing. After returning to the room, Da-hoon asked the judge to go outside to talk privately. She asked Da-hoon to get straight to the point. Da-hoon said that the old man's family believed that the director had bribed the officials, but the judge did not want to answer these questions. Finding evidence was the job of the police. Da-hoon begged the judge to use her demonic power to help him this time. Seeing Da-hoon's sincere attitude, the judge agreed to help him. They then went to the old man's funeral. The body was in bad condition. The judge placed her hand on the old man's forehead. This way, she could see the old man's memories. The old old man was taken away by the director. After that, they beat him up. Seeing the director torture the old man made the judge uncomfortable. They were also the ones who killed the old man. Although the judge knew the truth, she lied and said that the old man left this world on his own. This surprised Da-hoon. At the same time, in a deserted residential area, the inspector was keeping watch in front of Da-hoon's house. Just as the inspector had predicted, the murderer from back then had appeared. The inspector calmly observed the murderer's actions. As soon as he passed by, the inspector stealthily followed him. She ran straight into the alley the murderer had gone through, but when running to the intersection, the inspector lost track of him. The murderer standing behind pulled out his weapon and attacked the inspector, but the inspector easily avoided the attack. The inspector angrily chased after him with a stick. The murderer knew he was no match for the inspector, so he ran away. The inspector went crazy and chased after him but was knocked down by him. She immediately pulled out her gun and threatened the murderer. At the same time, Da-hoon returned home. He suddenly heard gunshots coming from the alley. Da-hoon hurriedly ran to check. He ran along each alley and picked up the inspector's stick. Feeling that something was wrong, Da-hoon sped up and ran forward. When he arrived, the inspector had disappeared, leaving only a long trail of blood on the road. The news of the inspector's disappearance had reached everyone. They were all worried about the inspector's safety. Even a devil like the judge felt the same way. Everyone clasped their hands and prayed for the inspector's safety. The search for the missing inspector was the top priority of the police department. The superior himself had personally led the search. The remaining evidence was the inspector's long bloodstain, along with the gun the inspector had used. Da-hoon was heartbroken when he thought of the inspector. He really wanted to find out the inspector quickly. However, the superior had ordered Da-hoon's team not to participate in this case. Da-hoon was extremely dissatisfied that his superior did not let him participate. The superior angrily said that this was the police chief's order. They were not allowed to participate. Instead, Da-hoon's team had to investigate the remaining cases. The morale of everyone in the team was severely affected. Da-hoon tried to reassure everyone that the inspector would be back soon. After work, Da-hoon went to the inspector's house. As soon as the inspector's daughter saw Da-hoon appear, she begged him to quickly find her mother. Da-hoon gently comforted her that she would save the inspector soon. Da-hoon then talked privately with the inspector's husband. The husband took out the file that his wife had copied. It was the file of Da-hoon's family case from many years ago. Since then, the inspector had been trying to investigate Da-hoon's case. Therefore, the husband wanted Da-hoon to use it to save his wife. Da-hoon looked at the pile of documents in his hand. He knew that he had to weigh down with this great responsibility. The next day, when the judge was getting ready for work, she unexpectedly ran into Da-hoon. Seeing his bad complexion made her worried. However, Da-hoon said that he was fine. The judge was curious about where the inspector was now, but when she wrote the inspector's name on the mirror, she didn't dare to look at the results. At this moment, Da-hoon texted her. He wanted to invite the judge to meet the witness who could prove the old man's innocence. Although she wasn't interested in the case, since Da-hoon had already invited, the judge decided to go with him. The witness said that the old man had a daughter who was seriously ill, and the old man needed a lot of money for treatment. However, the director's men used this story to fabricate and pushed all the blame onto the old man. Da-hoon asked if the witness could repeat these words in court. The witness agreed without hesitation. Da-hoon happily bowed his head to thank the witness. The day of the next trial had finally arrived. Contrary to the witness's promise, the witness did not appear in court at all. The defense attorney asked to disqualify the witness, but the judge decided to wait for the witness for another 5 minutes. At that moment, the court door opened. A man rushed in. He introduced himself as a witness to the case. The prosecutor immediately asked about the old man's debt. Instead of telling the story of the old man's daughter being sick, the witness said that the old man had a large debt from gambling. Not only that, the witness also made up a story about the old man threatening the director with a strike of work. Everyone in the courtroom became dissatisfied, especially those who knew the old man. Only the director laughed out loud, although the judge knew that the witness's words were false. According to the law, the judge could not prove that the witness was slandering. Therefore, the judge had to make a judgment based on what the witness said. As soon as the judgment was made, the witness ran away. Da-hoon immediately chased after the witness. The witness bowed and begged for forgiveness. That night, according to the congressman's appointment, the judge went to dinner with them. The congressman was pleased that the judge had made a judgment in favor of the director. The judge looked at the arrogant group in front of her, making her uncomfortable. Even the director's father was there. He thanked the judge for his help. Although she was not happy, she still celebrated with them. After the party ended, the judge went to the warden's office. The warden gave the judge a piece of paper. The warden revealed that this was information about the only victim who survived after falling into the hands of the murderer. The judge was surprised to see that this person was Da-hoon. The judge's face suddenly changed. The warden carefully observed every emotion that appeared on the judge's face. At the same time, at the police station, Da-hoon was trying to investigate the old man's case. Even though his colleagues did not want to handle this case, as a police officer, Da-hoon could not abandon the citizen. After the meeting ended, Da-hoon was surprised to see the judge standing in front of his desk. The judge said that she had something to ask him. Da-hoon curiously followed her to the rooftop. Suddenly the judge asked him what time it was. Da-hoon wondered what she meant. Before the judge left, Da-hoon said that he would find evidence to charge the director, but in the end, Da-hoon was unable to investigate any further. Today was the day of the final trial. Based on the testimony of the witness, along with the compensation the director had paid, the director was given the lightest sentence: 1 year of suspended imprisonment and 40 hours of community service. Everyone in the courtroom was outraged by the sentence, especially the old man's family. The daughter cried out and said that the director had not even once come to apologize to her family. Facing the pleas of the old man's family, the judge remained cold. Looking at the old man's daughter falling to the ground, the judge tried to keep herself from crying. Before leaving, she looked straight into Da-hoon's sad eyes. The judge's verdict once again caused strong opposition from everyone. A journalist published an article criticizing the judge, but she didn't care about the gossip. The only thing she noticed was Da-hoon's eyes. She didn't know why he was looking at her like that. At this moment, the assistant entered the room. The assistant said that he was still investigating the murderers. Suddenly, the assistant asked the judge if she wanted to work with the warden. The assistant suspected that the warden was Satan and that the warden might betray her, but the judge didn't believe what the assistant said. She thought that the assistant was just too worried. That night, the news reported that a group of thugs involved in the old man's arrest had been killed. A fierce fire had burned down their hideout. The perpetrators were none other than the cleaning crew. The young man did not care at all that he had to receive harsh punishment. Not only the young man, his colleagues had also broken the law to raise money to treat the old man's daughter. The doctor was delighted to see the patient getting well again. The identity of the doctor was the judge's neighbor, the old lady. The old lady was an angel who was observing everything on Earth. At the same time at a farm, Da-hoon went to see the director. He was still brazenly challenging Da-hoon's endurance. He didn't know that he was in danger. The judge had been observing the director's every move. He was now praying in the church. Suddenly an unknown number called. On the other end of the line was a little girl's voice. The girl asked the director if praying would help him escape the murder charge. The director was scared that a child knew so much about everything. He angrily asked who the girl was. The girl said that if he wanted to know, he should go to the golf course the day before. Otherwise, she would post the news online. Outside, the police were still following the director. At this moment, the car that the director usually drove distracted the police. The director smiled and drove to the meeting point. Meanwhile, at the judge's house, she was ready to meet the director. However, Da-hoon was waiting at the door. He wanted her to tell him everything she knew. Da-hoon certainly guessed that she was going to deal with the director. The judge was surprised when Da-hoon knew her intentions. However, she asked Da-hoon back if he wanted to kill the murderer who had harmed his family. This made Da-hoon hesitate. However, he still replied that he would obey the law. The judge smiled and said that she would find that murderer. She would be the one to send that person to hell. If he helped her, everything would be resolved quickly. But Da-hoon refused. He was shouldering the responsibility of a policeman. Just as the judge was about to leave, Da-hoon suddenly hugged the judge. Her heart was pounding. The judge tried to escape from Da-hoon's arms. She was angry that he dared to act like that. After that, the judge quickly went to the meeting place. At the same time at the amusement park, the director appeared. Suddenly a clown appeared in front of him, that's scaring him. Before the director could regain his composure, the warden appeared behind him and knocked him out. When the director woke up, he was terrified to find himself tied up on the golf course. In front of the director was the judge, who had pronounced him innocent. The judge smiled and hit the ball straight at the director. Each hit contained a lot of power. The director was beaten mercilessly. Despite the director fainting, the judge did not stop. She tortured him to her heart's content before letting him go. At this moment, a car arrived. The director begged them to save him. He did not expect that it was the cleaning brothers' car. They covered his head and took him to a forest. The director trembled as he observed everything around him. Just as he was about to run away, a rope hung him upside down. The tragedy did not stop there. The director was locked in a coffin by the cleaning brothers. He panicked and tried to escape. When the coffin lid was opened, he found himself standing in the middle of the park. A light turned on, attracting his attention. In the mist, the judge slowly walked out proudly. The director angrily asked her what she had done to him. The judge coldly asked him if he admitted to killing the old man, but the director still stubbornly refused to admit it. The judge laughed and snapped his fingers. Behind the wall appeared two monsters. The director was scared and ran away from them, but he could not escape the clutches of the two monsters. The director barricaded himself in the ticket booth. He calmly observed everything outside. Behind, the monster rushed forward and overturned the ticket booth. The director ran away in terror. Cornered, he shouted angrily and asked the judge why she did this to him. Then the director ran away onto the Ferris wheel. The judge just snapped her fingers. She already appeared inside the cabin. The director went crazy and attacked the judge, but he was knocked down by the judge's overwhelming power. She kept hitting the director in the face. He had completely lost the ability to fight. He tried to open the door to escape, but there was no way back. The judge coldly beat the director savagely. He painfully begged the judge to spare his life. The director admitted that he had ordered his henchmen to kill the old man manager. He said that God had forgiven him for what he had done. Hearing these absurd words, the judge became even angrier. She lifted the director up and lectured him. It was God who had ordered the devil to punish murderers like him. The knife appeared in the judge's hand. She coldly sent the director to eternal hell. Outside, fireworks were set off in the the sky. The gates of hell appeared, trapping the director's soul forever. As soon as the wheel stopped, the judge threw the director's body down. She didn't expect that Da-hoon had filmed everything. It turned out that he had secretly installed a tracking device on the judge. She was furious that she had been deceived. The judge ordered him to give her the phone, but Da-hoon refused. As soon as she approached, Da-hoon threw a handful of sulfur powder at the judge. It turns out that the assistant had secretly revealed the devil's weakness. When the devil is covered in sulfur powder, the devil's power will be sealed for 1 to 2 hours. The judge went crazy and attacked Da-hoon, but without the devil's power, she was easily defeated by him. Just as Da-hoon captured the judge, a colleague reported that the inspector had been found. Da-hoon hurriedly handcuffed the judge to the carousel and ran to the scene. When he arrived, many policemen were already there. Da-hoon tried to stay calm as he walked in. Before his eyes was a scene of devastation. Da-hoon knelt down on the tarpaulin on the ground. He trembled as he touched the inspector's hand. He had finally found the inspector. Tears of pain rolled down his cheeks. Da-hoon was still late. Next to the body was the mark left by the murderer. Da-hoon remembered that when he was young, it was the inspector who came when she received the report of a murder. The inspector was also the one who discovered Da-hoon hiding in the room. To comfort Da-hoon, the inspector lied that Da-hoon's parents were being treated in the hospital, but the tears betrayed the inspector. Da-hoon realized that the inspector was lying to him. The inspector promised to catch the real culprit. Since then, Da-hoon became an orphan. Every day, he was bullied by his classmates, and his personality also gradually deteriorated. In a moment of anger, Da-hoon threw a rock at the inspector, that injuring her. But instead of being angry, the inspector always treated Da-hoon well. Every time the school organized a parent-teacher conference, the inspector and her husband came as Da-hoon's parents. This moved Da-hoon. Seeing Da-hoon's positive changes, the inspector felt happy. The inspector's death made Da-hoon angry. He returned to the amusement park to see the judge. At this time, she had already regained her strength. Just as she was about to teach Da-hoon a lesson, he went crazy and smashed the phone in his hand. The judge was surprised that he would act like that. Da-hoon took steps towards the judge. He was trembling with blood on his hands as he handed the phone to the judge. He wanted her to find and kill the murderer who had harmed the inspector. Now he could no longer keep calm. The judge warned that if Da-hoon continued to act like that, he would also go to hell. Da-hoon did not care about what the judge said. He accepted the trade-off for revenge. The judge was amused by his attitude. As soon as she turned to leave, a tear suddenly fell from the judge's eyes. She herself did not understand her own feelings at the moment. She turned back to look at Da-hoon in shock. Today was the day of the inspector's funeral. All the policemen were dressed in their most formal uniforms to perform the ceremony. Below, the judge recalled what happened last night. If Da-hoon really wanted to go to hell, he had to see hell first. The judge and Da-hoon went to the forensic room. Da-hoon still couldn't get over this pain. Therefore, only the judge was the one to examine the body. She carefully observed every wound on the inspector's body. Memories of that fateful night appeared in the judge's mind. Someone had stabbed the inspector in the back. However, the judge couldn't see the perpetrator's face clearly. Suddenly, the warden's voice interrupted the judge's train of thought. The warden was excited to see Da-hoon's pained expression, but contrary to the warden's expectations, the judge didn't show any expression. Since Da-hoon was the inspector's closest friend, he was given the responsibility of speaking at the funeral. Da-hoon calmly stood up and performed the ceremony with everyone. Looking at the prepared eulogy, Da-hoon could not hide his emotions. Everyone in attendance shared the same feeling. The inspector's passing was an indelible loss. The sky suddenly poured heavy rain, hiding the judge's tears. Right at the end of the eulogy, Da-hoon angrily declared that no matter who killed the inspector, he would give everything to catch him. His superiors ordered someone to take Da-hoon down. He went crazy and hammered down everything. Seeing the heartbreaking scene made the judge feel remorseful. After returning, Da-hoon personally tore up his police certificate. To catch the devil, he had to become the devil. That night, the assistant returned home worriedly. The assistant knew he had committed a great crime. At this moment, the warden slowly appeared behind him. The warden angrily ordered the assistant to go and question him. Why would a devil pray to God? The fact that the assistant did not report the judge to her made the warden furious. The assistant was scared and said that he had never seen the judge cry before. Now the warden had grasped the assistant's weakness. If he did not listen, the warden would report him praying to the judge. The assistant knelt down and swore allegiance to the warden in exchange for the warden keeping his church visit a secret. Suddenly, the assistant wondered why the warden cared whether the judge shed tears or not. The warden smiled and walked towards the assistant. She revealed the secret mark on her arm. When she saw the mark, the assistant panicked. It was a mark only given to secret agents, those responsible for investigating demons that had feelings for humans. A new day began. Early in the morning, the judge went to the hospital to have her eyes checked, but the doctor said that there was nothing wrong with her eyes. The judge was puzzled and asked why she was crying. The doctor smiled and advised that she was most likely in a melting mood. Only now did the judge realize what she was feeling at that moment. Her heart was beating very fast. However, the judge still denied her feelings. Demons could not have emotions like humans. The doctor made a hypothesis. If Da-hoon disappeared from this world, how would she feel? The judge was surprised by the doctor's question. She was not mentally prepared to imagine such a scenario. Unlike demons who could live for thousands of years, humans were weak creatures employees, who could die at any time. The death of the inspector left a great loss in the hearts of the colleagues. The inspector was the one who had helped them throughout their work. It was the inspector who gave them the motivation and belief in justice. Looking at the empty desk, Da-hoon's team felt empty. At that moment, the door opened. Someone had come to take over the inspector's position today. At the same time, Da-hoon welcomed a new colleague named Johan. After greeting each other, the superiors began their meeting. They were investigating a case involving the judge. The common point between the victims was that they were all released by the judge before they died. To help the judge, Da-hoon said that the judge had to handle hundreds of cases every month. Were all the suspects killed? The superiors found Da-hoon's words reasonable. However, the colleagues objected. They were angry when Da-hoon kept defending the judge. The meeting gradually became tense. Only the new colleague named Johan silently observed. Da-hoon was annoyed and left the room, leaving everyone staring blankly. Afterwards, he made a private appointment with the judge for lunch. She had ordered a lot of dishes for him. She didn't want him to feel sad anymore. The judge deliberately fed Da-hoon. Before the two could enjoy their lunch, the table next to them started gossiping about the inspector's case. These unpleasant words made Da-hoon feel pain. Anger began to invade his mind. Da-hoon angrily walked forward and grabbed the person at the next table by the neck. Da-hoon asked if he should beat him up here. The atmosphere in the restaurant became chaotic. The judge hurriedly walked forward and rescued Da-hoon. She quickly pulled him out before things went too far. Only now did Da-hoon calm down. He knew the judge had done this on purpose so that they wouldn't sue him. The two of them didn't know that the warden was watching them. After parting with Da-hoon, the judge went to the cleaning brothers' residence. She asked them to investigate whether the murderer and Da-hoon's family were under the hell. The cleaning brothers trembled at the difficult task, not to mention that the judge did not have permission from hell. Just when they were about to refuse, the judge said that she already knew the cleaning brothers' secret. Now, they had no way back. That night, the judge and Da-hoon turned over the documents of the case together. However, all the evidence the police found was unclear. The judge asked Da-hoon if she remembered anything about the past. Da-hoon painfully recalled the scene of her family lying in a pool of blood. When she heard this, tears suddenly rolled down the judge's cheeks. The assistant accidentally saw this scene, so the assistant went to report to the warden. The warden asked the assistant what the atmosphere was like between the two. The assistant said that it was like they were filming a love movie. It was unacceptable for a judge to have feelings for a human. The warden took out a knife that she had prepared in his pocket. That night, while the judge was sleeping soundly, the old woman next door suddenly appeared and woke her up. The judge was furious when the old woman left without any explanation. The judge tried to chase after the old woman to get revenge. Suddenly, a pure light appeared behind the old woman. The judge was stunned when he saw that it was the wings of an angel. It turned out that the old woman's true identity was a noble angel. The judge was alert and pulled out her weapon and pointed it at the angel's face. However, the knife in the judge's hand was not enough to threaten the angel. The angel said that he was a representative of God. The angel had long observed the judge's every move. It was the angel who saved the families of the unfortunate victims. The judge laughed when he learned that the angel was following him. This time, the angel decided to reveal his identity to protect Da-hoon. The judge was a little surprised by the angel's words. The angel recounted that the first time she met Da-hoon was when he was living as a police officer. Looking at the crime scene at Da-hoon's house, the angel heard the earnest prayers of Da-hoon's mother before she passed away. Therefore, the angel connected Da-hoon with everyone. However, the moment Da-hoon had the intention to kill, the angel could no longer protect Da-hoon. The only person who can protect Da-hoon is the judge. The angel also reveals his prophecy. Between the judge and Da-hoon, one of them will die. The judge ponders over the angel's words. Even the angel doesn't know who will die. This makes the judge's mind confused. A new day began. Early in the morning, the second son of the congressman drove drunk. Fortunately, the old angel saved the children in time before a terrible accident happened. At the same time, the news about the murderer from 12 years ago was broadcast. When they heard that the murderer was gradually returning, the victim's family was shocked. Meanwhile, at the prosecutor's office, the news about the second son of the congressman using drugs and causing an accident was on the newspaper. The judge rushed back to his room when he saw the second son's face. The judge used his power to see where the second son was. He was currently being held in prison. At this time, a colleague came to inform the judge that the superior wanted to invite her to dinner tonight. Instead of refusing, the judge went to the appointment. As soon as she entered the room, the judge ordered the congressman to serve 4 years of probation. That was the sentence for the second son. The congressman laughed when the judge was honest with him. As soon as the congressman invited the judge to sit down for dinner, she immediately left. The eldest son understood what his father meant and chased after him. The eldest son coldly asked the judge if she was Bitna. The judge was surprised that he was so sure. The eldest son said that Bitna was someone who would obey him. It was the judge's attitude that made him suspicious. Besides, the Bitna he knew would never live in such a poor place. When the judge heard these sarcastic words, she felt very angry. Before leaving, the eldest son once again warned the judge to never appear in front him again. The judge did not also give in. She said that if that was the case, he should tell the congressman not to call her again. After the death of the inspector, the atmosphere at the police station became heavy. The colleagues always thought that the judge was the #1 suspect in the cases. This made Da-hoon feel uncomfortable. He angrily threw the can of water he had just bought into the trash can. Da-hoon said that if the colleague had not gone shopping, the inspector would not have died. When the colleague heard these words, he could not control himself and punched Da-hoon in the face. Johan accidentally witnessed this scene. Afterwards, Johan invited Da-hoon to the rooftop to get some fresh air. It turned out that Da-hoon had deliberately provoked the colleague to get beaten. Johan was curious about what kind of person the judge was and why Da-hoon kept protecting her. Da-hoon said that she was a bad judge, however, a very good person. After talking to Johan, Da-hoon quickly left. At the same time, at the warden's part-time job shop, the warden was happy that the judge had discovered the identity of the serial killer. The judge said that she was not 100% sure, but the person the judge suspected was the congressman's second son. The warden said that as long as she killed the second son, she would return to hell. But what the judge regretted was Da-hoon. If she returned to hell, Da-hoon would be all alone. As soon as she returned home, the judge saw Da-hoon with an injured face. She was angry and wondered who had done this, but Da-hoon just smiled and went into the house. The judge was worried, so he took care of him. Suddenly, Da-hoon grabbed the judge's hand. Just as he was about to give her a kiss, the judge dodged it. She shyly ran home. A new day has begun. Today the judge will try the second son. Instead of trying to deny his crimes, the second son took all the blame. His indifferent attitude made the judge furious. She walked in front of the second son. The judge used her power to look into his memories. She saw that he was the one who stabbed the inspector to death. The judge coldly asked him if he had ever killed anyone, but the second son did not dare to open his mouth to answer. The judge adjourned the trial to everyone's surprise. At the same time, Da-hoon was investigating the cases with Johan. Suddenly, someone reported that they had filmed evidence of the real murderer. Da-hoon was worried if it had anything to do with the judge. As soon as Johan went to the bathroom, Da-hoon checked the video footage. He realized that the judge's car had passed by the security camera, so Da-hoon deleted the footage before Johan returned. Johan wondered why the videotape of the day of the incident was deleted. He thought that everything was settled, but when Da-hoon returned to the car, Johan seriously asked why Da-hoon did that. Johan saw Da-hoon deleting the videotape. Da-hoon tried to hold back his anger. Surprisingly, Johan said that he would keep this a secret if Da-hoon would listen to him. Meanwhile, at the park, other colleagues were also investigating the director's death. They still suspected that the judge was the culprit. That night, at the shop where the warden worked part-time, Johan unexpectedly appeared there. His true identity was that of a devil. After receiving the warden's report, Johan confirmed it himself. It was a big taboo for Da-hoon to know the judge's identity. As soon as he had enough evidence, Johan went to meet the judge directly. A few days ago, in an abandoned warehouse, the warden took out a knife and drew a magic circle on the ground. The guard was willing to sacrifice her life to summon the god of death. Blood began to flow from the warden's mouth. The blazing flames formed a pentagram. From within the mist, the Lord High Steward appeared. He was annoyed that a low-level devil like the warden dared to summon him. The guard asked the Lord High Steward to kill Da-hoon. Da-hoon was the one who interfered with the judge's duties. The Lord High Steward coldly summoned his bodyguard. In order to get close to Da-hoon, the bodyguard entered Johan's body. Johan was killed while chasing a criminal. That was also the reason why Johan paid attention to Da-hoon when they first met. Everything Johan had done from the beginning until now was only to find evidence to kill the judge. Tonight's appointment was arranged by Johan. That was his request for Da-hoon. From the darkness, a demon in a human body stepped out. He greeted the judge happily. She kept a calm face as she talked to him. Johan wanted to invite the judge out for a drink. He curiously asked about her feelings for Da-hoon. The judge laughed and threatened Johan. She said that he could use the deleted tape at any time, but it was best to never use it to threaten Da-hoon. Instead of confronting the judge directly, Johan decided to kill Da-hoon. A new day began. Early in the morning, the judge sentenced the second son. The sentence was very light compared to the crime he committed. This once again made everyone indignant. Before going to prison, the second son opened the secret safe. Inside was the knife he used to kill the person. At the same time, at the convenience store, the warden was curious about when the judge would take action against the murderer, but the judge said that now was not the time. The judge still did not know for sure whether the second son was the real murderer or not. In the second son's memory, he only held a weapon and watched the inspector die in pain. This surprised the warden. Why would the judge let him off so easily? But the judge still decided to be cautious with this case. Suddenly, the warden asked if it was because the inspector was related to Da-hoon. Hearing this, the judge was startled. Before leaving, the judge warns the Guat to leave Da-hoon alone. Meanwhile, at the congressman's house, he asks his son what he plans to do with the land the judge is living on. The eldest son says he will clear the land quickly, but there is something the congressman is more concerned about. Recently, a video of the judge protecting Da-hoon has been circulating online. The eldest son felt uncomfortable that someone dares to approach the judge. Meanwhile, at a restaurant, the judge was furious that the angel refuses to tell her the truth. The angel says that only the judge knows how to protect Da-hoon, but she is certain of one thing: one of them will die. The judge asks if she returns to hell, will the prophecy come true? true? The angels sneered at the judge. The angel's prophecy was not something that could be easily avoided. A new day had begun. There were many articles attacking the judge since early morning. Even the chief was surprised that the reporters were only targeting the judge. There were many articles accusing the judge of being a bribe taker, but the judge ignored them all. The superiors did not want the reputation of the police station to be ruined, so they ordered the judge to take a month's rest. The judge happily returned to her office, saying that she had been suspended for a month. This was a good time for her to focus on the murder case. Every day she reviewed the case documents with Da-hoon. The only living witness was Da-hoon, but he had no clue to find the murderer. Suddenly, a thought popped into the judge's mind. It was very possible that this serial killer was Satan. Da-hoon was confused and did not know who Satan was. The judge explains the past of hell. Satan was once an almighty demon, but he betrayed his lord and escaped to the human world. Even though Satan is a demon with the power of destruction, if he wants to survive in this world, he must live in the bodies of dead people. Therefore, Satan constantly searches for new bodies to serve his ambitions. At the same time, at the police station, the colleagues were still investigating the judge. They found out that there was a reporter who frequently posted articles denouncing Bitna, so the colleagues scheduled a meeting with that reporter. A new day began. Da-hoon was always being followed by Johan. Johan had gotten hold of the secret that Da-hoon was protecting the judge. Johan seemed to want to tease Da-hoon. He kept taking out the tape to threaten Da-hoon, but every time Johan teased him, Da-hoon would go crazy and lose control of himself. He went up to grab Johan by the neck. Just as Da-hoon was about to teach Johan a lesson, someone suddenly came up to the rooftop. In order to protect himself and the judge, Da-hoon decided to endure. Johan laughed and challenged Da-hoon to stop him before everything was posted online. A moment later, Da-hoon went with the judge to visit the victims' families. They wanted to learn about the case 12 years ago. The family has been waiting for justice for during 12 years, but no one has given them any hope. Suddenly, the judge asked the family if they could forgive the murderer. The family was furious that she was talking nonsense like that. The families of the other victims also could not accept this fact. Every day they had to live in pain. The only consolation was that the judge visited the families of the victims. Seeing their affection, the judge was clearly moved. Da-hoon silently observed the judge's attitude. Now the judge showed emotions no different from a human being. This comforted Da-hoon a lot. The two were drinking together when the cleaning brothers suddenly made an appointment to meet the judge privately. They said that they had found the information the judge needed. Seeing them in such disarray, the judge did not ask any more questions. She flipped through the notebook. In an instant, the judge became angry and burned it to ashes. At the same time, in the abandoned warehouse, the warden brought the assistant here. The assistant was surprised when another guy appeared. He had a power even greater than the assistant. Johan angrily grabbed the assistant's neck and threatened him. Johan told the assistant to listen to his orders from now on. The assistant trembled before his authority. Only the guard remained calm. She asked Johan not to harm the judge. Johan remembered what Lord High Stewards had said. The Lord High Steward allowed him to kill Da-hoon and send Da-hoon to hell. Regardless of whether Da-hoon was a criminal or not, the Lord High ordered that Da-hoon be made guilty by all means. If the judge dared to stop him, he could kill the judge. The devil was delighted that he had received the ultimate privilege. The guard's actions made the assistant uncomfortable. Although he was very scared, the assistant still inquired into the warden's matter. The devil she summoned was the judge's enemy, but the warden didn't care. She believed that all the sins were caused by Da-hoon. It was Da-hoon who made the judge of hell be vibrate. The assistant angrily said that he would report this to the judge, but the guard threatened the assistant. If the assistant betrayed them, the assistant would be the first to die. Meanwhile, at a high-class restaurant, the eldest son was meeting and convincing the owner's daughter to sell the prime land, which was the land where the judge lived. With a huge sum of money and a threat, the daughter went to convince her mother to sell the house, but the mother had a reason to keep the land. She wanted to wait for her missing son to return. This made the daughter feel sad. The daughter felt depressed when her mother kept apologizing to her, so the daughter ran away from home. The mother was heartbroken when she saw her daughter hurt. A moment later, a voice called out from outside the door. The mother was overjoyed, thinking her daughter had returned, but when she opened the door, the person standing in front of her was the judge. She said that she was here to investigate a case from 12 years ago. Her son was also one of the many victims of the murderer. The mother trembled as she opened the door to her son's room. Painful memories immediately overwhelmed her. The judge slowly walked inside. Suddenly she saw the mother's memories. Every day she was busy from morning to night, therefore she had no time to take care of her two children. She did not expect that the bad news would come so quickly. In just a short time, she lost her beloved son. At her son's funeral, the mother cried so much that her eyes were swollen. Her attitude gradually became indifferent. Why did God take her son away? She went crazy when her faith was severely shaken. For a long time, she was not in the mood to do anything. Seeing her mother go crazy made her daughter feel very sad. While wandering on the street, the mother suddenly heard the church bells. She went inside and knelt before the cross. From then on, she went to church every day to pray. The judge felt indignant when the mother's prayers were not answered by God. The return of the killer made her mad. She begged Da-hoon to catch him. After leaving the mistress's house, they still had a place to go. That was Da-hoon's former home. As Da-hoon stood front of the gate. Painful emotions immediately rushed back. The judge saw this and opened the door first. There was nothing left inside the house. Da-hoon recounted everything that happened that fateful day. He never thought that he would lose everything that day. The judge looked straight into his memories. The bloody scene appeared before her eyes. The mother's last prayers before dying made the judge unable to control her emotions. She hurriedly ran outside. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. The judge said that his family had gone to heaven. This made Da-hoon's heart feel relieved. Now he was ready to go to hell to avenge them. But the judge refused. She was the one who would put an end to that murderer. The sky had turned dark. The judge had planned to go to a nightclub. This place was the second son's favorite place. As soon as she stepped into the room, the second son made a joke that made the judge uncomfortable. She picked up the bottle of wine on the table and slammed it against the wall. The judge knew that Satan was residing in the second son's body, but the second son still tried to deny it. The judge continued to interrogate him. She asked who he really was. The second son was scared and said that he didn't know anything. He said that if the judge thought he was Satan, then just kill him. The judge was angry because there was no solid evidence, so she couldn't do anything to him. At the same time, Da-hoon was sitting alone by the fire. Suddenly, he received a distress call from the judge. Da-hoon was worried that she was in danger. He did not expect that it was a trap set by the demons. They had impersonated the judge's voice to trick Da-hoon into going to the meeting place. Da-hoon hurriedly drove to the meeting place in advance. The assistant felt regretful for betraying the judge. The assistant went to church one last time to say goodbye to the pastor. On the way home, the warden taunted the assistant while praying in front of the cross. Just as the guard put a knife to the assistant's neck, the assistant threw sulfur powder at the warden. The warden screamed in pain. Taking this opportunity, the assistant immediately ran home. However, now both the judge and Da-hoon were gone. Only the old lady next door was left. After hearing what happened, the old lady went to the nightclub to inform the judge. She felt uncomfortable when she saw the assistant came with the angel. Before the judge could ask anything, the assistant knelt down. The judge said that she already knew about the assistant going to pray at the church. The assistant's betrayal was also predicted by the judge. However, she could not calm down when Da-hoon was in danger. Now Da-hoon was furiously running to save the judge, but the person who appeared before Da-hoon's eyes was Johan. Da-hoon angrily asked Johan where the judge was. Johan said that he had killed the judge. Johan revealed his evil eyes to Da-hoon. He furiously rushed to beat Johan, but the devil inside Johan's body was just enjoying Da-hoon's weak strength. Johan calmly toyed with him. Da-hoon was beaten by Johan, even though Da-hoon knew he was in danger, but he was still confident that the judge would come to save him. Just as Johan was about to finish the Da-hoon off, the judge appeared and sent Johan flying. The two charged at each other like ferocious beasts. The judge went mad and beat the devil inside. For the past 400 years, they had been enemies. A red spear appeared in Johan's hand. The two charged at each other with all their strength. The judge faced the dangerous enemy without any fear. Just as the judge was about to send Johan back to hell, he suddenly used the summoning domain. In the blink of an eye, the judge found himself in Da-hoon's house. Although the judge knew that the person in front of her was not Da-hoon, but human emotions weakened the judge. She was easily defeated by Da-hoon. The spear once again stabbed straight into the judge. She tried to resist the enormous power. Blood started flowing from her hands. Suddenly, Da-hoon's voice brought her back to the real world. The judge was furious that someone dared to play with her like that. She punched Johan straight away. Then she picked up the spear and threw it through Johan's body. The judge didn't have time to rest. She ran to Da-hoon. She scolded him for taking such a risk. Before Da-hoon could reply, the judge hugged him. This was the first time the judge took the initiative with someone else. Da-hoon grabbed the judge's injured hands. Just when they were off guard, Johan used the last of his strength to pull the spear out of his body. He gently walked behind the judge. Just when he was about to kill the two people, the warden appeared in time to push him away. The judge angrily stabbed the devil inside Johan to death with a knife. After finishing, Da-hoon suddenly stepped in front of the judge. He used his hand to wipe away the drops of blood that were splattered on that beautiful face, but it did not lessen the anger in the judge's heart. She severely punished the warden for daring to betray her. The guard said that her true identity was an undercover agent. The judge could forgive the warden for deceiving her. However, the fact that the guard put Da-hoon in danger, the judge could not ignore it. She coldly chased the warden away. Before leaving, the guard warned the judge if she stayed by Da-hoon's side. The dead man was the judge anyway. The cleaning brothers were there too. They had carefully erased all traces of the battle. The demon had also been sealed away. The judge wondered why the cleaning brothers were helping her. They said they understood how the judge felt. The judge thanked the two and drove away. The judge walked to the abandoned warehouse. In front of her was a demon summoning circle. The Lord High Steward appeared from within the smoke. He loudly blamed the judge for breaking the law of the underworld. Having feelings for a prisoner was a capital crime. Not to mention, the judge had killed his loyal henchman. The judge had no excuses. She accepted the punishment the Lord High Steward gave her. But when the Lord High Steward threatened to kill Da-hoon, the judge summoned her sword without hesitation. The Lord High Steward angrily lifted the judge up. He slowly drained all of the judge's strength. The judge fell to the ground in pain. The Lord High Steward's punishment was to exile the judge to the human world and wait for the final judgment. Now the judge had lost all of his demonic powers. At the same time at the police station, Da-hoon was being investigated after Johan's death. Da-hoon calmly recounted the whole incident in a way that was favorable to the judge. Because there was not enough evidence to convict Da-hoon, he was released. The judge was happy that Da-hoon had returned safely. Now their mission was to catch the serial killer. The judge suspected that the second son was the murderer, but she was not sure if he was Satan. Da-hoon was furious and wanted to find the second son to take revenge, but the judge stopped him. He would die before he could avenge his family, so let the judge investigate this matter. A new day begins. Since early morning that the atmosphere in the room has been stifling, Da-hoon, although acquitted, still has to face the judgmental gazes of her colleagues. Meanwhile, the judge has come to the congressman's house. She acts differently than usual, surprising the congressman. He doesn't understand what the judge wants to do. Suddenly, the judge says that she should marry the congressman's son. For now, everyone still doesn't know her true intentions, but the judge marrying the congressman's son is already a good thing. The eldest son smiles when the judge finally submits to him, but the person the judge wants to marry isn't the eldest son. Instead, she wants to marry the second son. The congressman laughs and tells the two to get to know each other first. The congressman is completely satisfied with the judge's decision. The second son angrily leaves the banquet table. The judge sees this and also asks for permission to go to the bathroom. As soon as she passes by the hallway, she spots the second son coming out of the secret room. He asked her fearfully what she saw. The judge smiled and said that she saw everything. He angrily warned the judge to stop here, otherwise she would regret it. The judge changed his mind and wanted to marry the younger son, which made the eldest son upset. He asked his father why he agreed to let the judge act so recklessly. The senator told the eldest son not to go too far, otherwise he would take away everything the eldest son had in his hands. At the same time, the police came to see the female reporter who wrote the article denouncing the judge. The female reporter revealed that on the day the judge was attacked, the judge was taken to the congressman's hospital. Not to mention the news about the broken engagement had all disappeared. The police thought that Bitna broke off the engagement, which was why she was attacked by the congressman's men. After finding the clue, they returned to the police station. The senior was angry that Da-hoon was still ignoring him, so the senior called Da-hoon to eat together. Seeing the senior eating so hastily, Da-hoon poured the senior a glass of water. The senior was annoyed that Da-hoon was being nice to him. The senior said that he was investigating Bitna's stabbing. He suspected that the congressman's family was involved in the case. Da-hoon was surprised that the senior had changed his attitude. It was obvious that he was suspecting the judge. The senior calmly admitted if he wanted to know what kind of person the judge was, he had to catch the person who stabbed Bitna. That was the duty of a policeman. In the midst of his emotions, the senior apologized to Da-hoon for hitting him. He also apologized for not being able to protect the inspector. The two finally put aside their long-standing grudge. Before leaving, the senior suggested that Da-hoon go to the hospital where the judge often went. Da-hoon curiously asked the doctor if there was anyone who often followed the judge. The doctor remembered once time when Bitna coming here for a checkup. There was a strange man standing in front of the hospital room watching Bitna. Da-hoon hurriedly showed the doctor the picture of the congressman's eldest son, but the doctor shook his head and said it wasn't him. Da-hoon switched to the picture of the second son, and the doctor immediately recognized that the mysterious person was him. Just as the second son was about to enter the room, he realized that someone was secretly following him, so he left. Da-hoon brought this information back to tell the judge, but that was still not enough to prove that the second son was the culprit. Da-hoon was upset that the second son was always following the judge. The judge curiously asked if he was jealous. Da-hoon shyly admitted it. To dispel the heavy atmosphere, the judge asked him out on a date. The two of them truly enjoyed the happiest moments. Da-hoon spent a day on a date with the person he loved, and his heart was healed. At night, the two of them went for a walk together. The judge felt embarrassed when Da-hoon teased her. A new day began. Early in the morning, the landlady went to church to pray. Her faith in God was gradually fading. She blamed God for letting the murderer return. She begged God to let her meet the murderer. The sky gradually began to rain heavily. The landlady walked absent-mindedly in the water. The judge hurriedly came forward to hold an umbrella for her. Because she was so tired, the landlady fainted. The judge had a hard time bringing her home. After being taken care of by the judge, she woke up. The first thing she wanted to know was the identity of the murderer. Surprisingly, the landlady said that she had met him before. It was also raining heavily that day. On her way to pick up her child, the landlady saw a strange man holding white chrysanthemums. She was curious as to why he was standing in front of her son's grave. When the man was discovered, he quickly ran away. The landlady was in pain. Every time she remembered this, she knelt down and begged the judge to arrest the murderer. The judge was moved by landlady's request, so she planned to go see the second son. However, the assistant stopped her. Now, the judge had lost all her power. If the second son's true identity was Satan, the judge would most likely be killed. But the judge's mind was made up, and no one could stop her. Before leaving, the judge ordered the assistant to protect Da-hoon. The next day, the congressman invited the judge to his house. Only the second son was home, so the judge took the time to explore the secret room. She didn't expect that her every move was being observed by the second son. The judge tried to activate the switch to open the secret door. As soon as the door was opened, a dark space enveloped her. The judge curiously walked inside to check. There was a large space under this house. She wondered why they had to build such a large basement. In the middle of the wall hung a strange painting. She went in to check each room. The judge turned every corner of the room upside down, but she found nothing but a picture. The judge continued walking down the hallway to the picture. She suddenly noticed something strange. The candle in the picture was out. The judge wondered if it was an object that didn't belong to this world. The judge reached out to touch the picture. Just as she thought it was an energy gate, the judge calmly walked through the gate and entered inside. In front of her was an iron door. She used force to open the door. Inside was the murder weapon that the murderer used to kill people. Not only the murder weapon, the murderer also collected the victims' bodies as trophies. The judge was furious that the murderer could be so cruel. At this moment, a loud noise caught her attention. The judge quickly turned back. Unexpectedly, the second son was hiding and attacked the judge. Luckily, she avoided the fatal blow. The second son angrily rushed forward with a stick, wanting to kill the judge, but the judge quickly knocked him down and snatched the stick. She asked him if he was Satan, but the second son did not understand what she was saying. He got mad and pressed against the judge. While the two were struggling, the second son accidentally hit the judge on the head, causing her to faint. Finally, the judge woke up. She was surprised to see the second son leading her into an empty room. He said that this was his deceased mother's room. The judge wondered why he attacked Bitna. The second son remembered the first time Bitna came to her house. While Bitna was exploring the house, Bitna accidentally activated the switch to open the secret door. Bitna, out of curiosity, went inside to check. Standing in front of the mysterious scene, Bitna was attracted. Bitna went to the room that used to be the place where the second son's mother lived and accidentally saw a video recording the scene of the oldest son harming another woman. At this moment, the oldest son appeared. He angrily asked Bitna what she was doing here. Bitna fearfully said that she had something to do and had to leave first. At that time, Bitna should not have entered that room. Only now did the judge know who was behind everything. As soon as Bitna left, the eldest son ordered the second son to chase and kill Bitna. Bitna struggled to escape but could not escape the second son's blade. He went crazy and stabbed Bitna to death, then quickly fled the scene. Until now, the second son still could not believe why Bitna was still alive. The judge coldly said that it seemed like his mother had suffered a lot before she died. The judge coaxed the second son to tell her the name of the person who killed his mother. As long as he told her, she would send the murderer who killed his mother to hell. The second son was furious that someone dared to insult his mother. He went crazy and strangled the judge. At the same time, at the police station, Dahun and his colleagues were investigating Bitna's case. Seeing everyone working hard to investigate, the superior invited everyone to dinner. Dahun took advantage of her free time to call the judge, but she did not answer the phone, so he called the assistant to ask. Only then did Dahun know that the judge had gone to the congressman's house. Dahun quickly drove to the congressman's house. Suddenly, the wardens ran across and blocked Dahun's car. It turned out that the warden already knew that the judge had gone to the congressman's house, so she gave Dahun a map of the congressman's house. Dahun got mad and drove his car through the main door. He followed the map and ran down to the basement. When she saw the second son strangling the judge, Dahun went crazy and rushed over to beat him up. Luckily, the judge stopped Dahun before he could kill the second son. Dahun hurriedly untied the judge. Taking advantage of the moment when Dahun wasn't paying attention, the second son grabbed the box and ran away. A moment later, the congressman and the first son returned. They were surprised to see police cars in front of their house. The judge smiled and looked at them with disdain. The judge was then taken to the hospital. The warden had come to take care of her since early morning. The judge saw that the warden seemed to have realized her mistake, so she forgave the warden. The judge said that she owed the warden 2 slaps, so the warden could pay her back right now. The warden was just waiting for that moment, immediately retreated to gain momentum, and then punched the judge in the face with all his might. Their relationship had returned to normal. Now, they were back on the same side. That night, the judge came to the abandoned warehouse. She risked her life to summon the Lord High Steward. He was furious that a criminal dared to summon him here. The judge said that she would capture Satan and hand over to the Lord High Steward in exchange for her power. The Grand Steward decided to put her trust in the judge once and for all. After regaining their power, the 3 of them went before the second son. The judge went crazy and beat the second son up. Then, she had someone drag him to a remote mountain. The judge coldly set fire to everything inside the car. The next morning, the police discovered the fire. There was only one victim inside, the congressman's second son. But because the body had been burned to ashes, the police had to wait for the forensic team to find more clues. At this moment, a police officer discovered a suicide note. It was written that his father and elder brother had killed him. They looked at the second son's suicide note in confusion. Immediately, the eldest son was called to the police station to give a statement. He was surprised and did not know what had happened, but there was one thing he was sure of: he did not kill his younger brother. The eldest son added that on the day the judge was kidnapped at his house, all the cameras in the house were smashed. It was possible that the youngest son left a letter to blame his family. On the contrary, the congressman felt very sad that he had not raised his son properly. Whatever the truth was, he would take responsibility for the death of his youngest son. Instead of finding out who the real culprit was, the congressman just wanted everything to go smoothly. The police were having a headache because they couldn't find any clues. The second son's family all had an alibi. The second son's funeral was held quickly. Many guests came to pay their respects to the congressman. They were all dressed in black, very formal. Only the judge wore a gorgeous dress that made everyone talk. Instead of paying respects to the second son, the judge used a sarcastic tone, which angered the eldest son. However, the congressman ordered the eldest son to be quiet. After all, the judge was an honored guest. The judge congratulated the congressman. She knew very well that the second son's death was the gift the congressman wanted. But after all, it was his son's funeral, so the congressman still had to act heartbroken in public. It turned out that 4 days ago, when Da-hoon went to the hospital to visit the judge, the neighbors reported that she had been discharged and disappeared. Da-hoon took out his phone to call the judge that suddenly a text message arrived. The judge made an appointment for him at 10 p.m. tonight at the cafe in front of the villa. As scheduled, Da-hoon ran to the cafe. He was very worried when the judge suddenly disappeared. The judge said that she would handle the second son's case because he was currently in possession of the weapon that the serial killer used. As planned, the assistant imitated the receptionist's voice to trick the second son into opening the door. As soon as the door opened, the second son was scared to see the judge, but her real purpose was to use the second son to catch the serial killer. After subduing the second son, they entered the room to search. The warden found the box that hid the murderer's weapon. The second son quickly ran over and grabbed the box. The judge curiously asked why he was guarding the box so carefully. Whose box was it anyway? The second son trembled and said he didn't know. The judge smiled and said that she had guessed his intention. Perhaps the second son wanted to use this box to threaten his family. That way, he could escape from here safely. The judge threatened him to hand over the box to the police and reveal the true identity of the murderer. But the second son didn't want to do as the judge said. He didn't trust her at all. The judge coldly said that the congressman and the eldest son would definitely kill him, just like they did to the second son's mother. After successfully manipulating the second son's mind, the judge left. The second son stared at the phone on the table and immediately called his brother. The eldest son reassured his brother that he would take care of everything. As long as the second son told the eldest son the address, the eldest son would send someone to pick up the second son. Just as the judge had predicted, the father and son of the congressman had planned to eliminate the second son. They had sent someone to the location that the second son had informed them. In his hand, the second son was still holding the box containing the weapon tightly. He had not expected that they would dare to deceive him. Just as the second son was about to be knocked unconscious, the cleaning brothers appeared and blocked the front of the thugs' car. The thugs were furious that someone dared to block their way. Each of them was taken down by the cleaning brothers. Only then did the second son believe what the judge said. The second son asked the judge if she really wanted to avenge his mother. Before he could finish speaking, the judge slapped him in the face. This slap was to avenge what the second son had done to the judge in the basement. After agreeing to cooperate, they moved to a remote mountain. There, the cleaning brothers prepared an old car and a suicide note to fool the first son and the congressman. The judge decided to use a fake corpse to fool them. The fierce fire destroyed all the evidence. As soon as the funeral was held, the second son brought the box to the police station to confess. Inside was the murder weapon used by the serial killer. Everyone was surprised that the second son was still alive. The police immediately began interrogation. The senior was angry when the second son refused to confess anything. As soon as the senior left, the second son whispered to Da-hoon. He confessed everything that the eldest son and the congressman had done to his mother. The only evidence was the video that the eldest son had recorded, but the video had been hidden. Even the second son didn't know where it was. Da-hoon curiously asked about the identity of the serial killer, but the second son refused to answer. He only cared about avenging his mother. After the interrogation ended, the second son was detained, pending the results. The fact that the youngest son was still alive made the oldest son angry. He was furious that the youngest son dared to confess. The subordinate informed that the second son had brought an axe and handed over to the police. Hearing this, the eldest son went crazy. He took a hard object and hit the subordinate on the head. The truth began to be revealed. The eldest son did not expect that the entire plan was directed by the judge. She was the one who told Da-hoon to reveal information about the weapon. That was how the murderer showed his weakness. The eldest son went crazy and went back to see his father. They were actually accomplices. What was even more terrifying was the true identity of the congressman. He was Satan, who had escaped from hell. The eldest son also knew the truth, so he used Satan to carry out his plot. The room under the secret chamber was built by Satan. Satan now realized that the judge was also a devil. Satan opened the door that contained the body of the second son's mother. Now, the eldest son was at a dead end. Satan asked the eldest son to hand over the lost weapon to him. In return, he would send his eldest son and all his assets to live abroad. But the eldest son did not trust Satan. Satan made a proposal. As long as the eldest son reached the airport, Satan would hand over the weapon to him. The deal was made. Satan was the eldest son's last hope. That night, the eldest son took out the gun that had been prepared in advance. At this moment, Satan texted the eldest son to come back. The eldest son did not know that he was being watched by the judge, so he took out the lost weapon. The judge was stunned when the legendary weapon was in his hands. After completing all the preparations, the eldest son handed over the legendary weapon to Satan, but instead of letting Satan have the weapon, the eldest son directly murdered Satan's mortal body. When the mortal body loses its life, the evil spirit will also disappear. The eldest son achieved his goal and went to the airport. Here, the security staff discovered that he was carrying a prohibited item. They asked him to take the item out for inspection, but the eldest son refused. A dispute broke out right in the middle of the airport. Suddenly, the flight attendant pulled out a knife and stabbed the eldest son straight into the eldest son's leg. In the pain, he heard a familiar laugh. It turned out that the eldest son had fallen into Satan's illusion. It was this pain that brought the eldest son back to reality. Satan said that he had only used him. The eldest son was too naive to think that he could kill Satan. Satan happily took the legendary weapon and left, leaving the eldest son screaming in pain. At the same time, at the police station, everyone had found out the identity of the murderer. It was the eldest son. The police immediately issued a warrant for his arrest. Da-hoon immediately reported this to the judge. At this time, she was driving to the congressman's villa. She angrily kicked the door open and rushed in to find Satan. There was a trail of blood inside. The judge realized that something was wrong, so she immediately ran down to the basement. Just as Satan was about to use the power of the legendary weapon, the judge stopped him in time. Satan laughed and said that they all came from the same place, but the judge didn't have time to talk to him. She immediately pulled out her sword. Satan immediately recognized that the girl in front of him was the judge from hell who had come to earth. Satan asked the judge if she wasn't curious why the congressman became a murderer, but the judge just shook her head and walked in front of Satan. Just as she was about to finish him off, Satan shouted Da-hoon's name. He recounted that 26 years ago, after escaping from hell, Satan encountered the eldest son while wandering on the street. The eldest son's ambition became Satan's target. On that fateful night, the eldest son went crazy and murdered the congressman. By the time he calmed down, the father was dead. In a moment of panic, Satan appeared to help the eldest son. Satan knew that the eldest son wanted to gain recognition from the congressman. Therefore, Satan took advantage of the eldest son's name and used the congressman's body as a shelter. In return, the eldest son had to become a murderer to help Satan achieve his goals. The eldest son gradually sank into the power that the devil brought. Very quickly, the deal between the two sides was established. Since then, the eldest son became a cold-blooded killer. He collected all the body parts for Satan to create an immortal body. Accidentally, on a rainy night, the mother of the second son discovered the truth. Therefore, she was imprisoned in the basement by them. The judge was angry that Satan dared to do such evil things. Just as she was about to kill him, Satan said that he would give her what she had always wanted. In a flash, the judge found herself in a bride's dress, and the person standing in front of her was Da-hoon. Just as they shared a sweet kiss, a heavy rain poured down. The judge heard the incantation that Satan chanted. As soon as she regained consciousness, the corpse of the second son's mother came back to life and attacked the judge. She was crushed to the floor. The judge went crazy and kicked the monster away. With just one slash, the judge sent the monster back to dust. Satan took advantage of the judge's inattention to grab the legendary weapon. Unfortunately, the judge was faster than Satan. She immediately kicked the legendary weapon aside. Then she used her strength to grab Satan. He warned her to never trust the Lord High Steward. The Lord High Steward was the real Lord of all demons, but the judge did not care about what Satan said. She said that the Lord of all demons was herself. She went crazy and stabbed Satan to death. His soul immediately escaped. The judge was surprised that Satan was not dead. Now Satan was no longer in that weak body. He could freely use all his strength. The judge was no match for Satan. She was easily thrown away. Satan laughed as the judge fought back in vain. With a snap of his fingers, the territory changed. The judge rushed in front of Satan, but she was once again sent flying into the wall. The judge painlessly kicked Satan into the lake. She angrily beat him up. Satan was amazed at the judge's enormous strength. She bent down to pick up the legendary weapon. She punched Satan away. Her eyes turned purple. At that moment, the gates of hell appeared. The judge threw the stone into the gate, but Satan quickly caught it. Just as Satan was off guard, the judge stabbed him to death. Satan's soul was sucked into the gates of hell. At this moment, the police also arrived at the villa. The judge texted Da-hoon that the eldest son had escaped. He was now at the port, preparing to cross the border. The eldest son thought he had escaped the siege when suddenly the ship stopped. He did not expect that Da-hoon was also on the ship. He rushed forward to beat the eldest son. The eldest son panicked and pulled out a gun to threaten him. But Da-hoon was not someone who could be bullied easily. Before coming here, he had also brought a gun with him. A gunfight broke out. Taking advantage of the eldest son's lack of vigilance, Da-hoon circled around from behind and beat him up. Da-hoon went crazy when he met the murderer from back then. Only now did he realize that Da-hoon was the child he had overlooked that year. The eldest son laughed and mentioned the inspector's name. On that fateful night, the inspector almost caught the second son. Just as the inspector was about to kill the second son, the eldest son appeared and shot the inspector down. They took the inspector to an abandoned warehouse. The eldest son smiled at the inspector for daring to follow him. The inspector, despite being injured, still tried to fight back. The inspector would have caught the eldest son if the second son had not appeared. It was the second son who suddenly attacked and knocked the inspector down. Taking advantage of the inspector's lack of vigilance, the eldest son rose up and brutally beat the inspector. Before the inspector was killed, she left a clue for Da-hoon. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, the eldest son found out. He heartlessly used an axe to kill the inspector. Da-hoon went crazy when knowing the eldest son did that to the inspector. His anger reached its peak. He kept punching the eldest son in the face. Da-hoon used the anchor on the ship to tie the eldest son up. Not stopping there, Da-hoon took a fire extinguisher and walked in front of the eldest son. Da-hoon wanted him to apologize to the inspector. However, the eldest son still despised him and considered what Da-hoon said a joke. Just as Da-hoon was about to kill the eldest son, he suddenly remembered what the judge and the inspector said. They didn't want him to lose his mind due to anger, so Da-hoon suppressed his grief and captured the eldest son. The police quickly surrounded the port. They were satisfied that Da-hoon had captured the cold-blooded murderer. Outside, the judge was waiting for Da-hoon. As soon as Da-hoon saw her, he immediately ran over and gave her the warmest hug. The painful emotions that Da-hoon had been suppressing for so long were finally released. The judge gently patted and comforted him. A new day began. A few days after the eldest son was arrested, his trial was held. Many of the victims' family members attended. Just as the judge was about to leave, the Lord High Steward appeared. He said that the judge had completed his task. Now he had a new order. That was to declare the eldest son innocent, then drag him down to hell to receive the appropriate punishment. If the judge disobeyed, she would be the one to receive the most severe punishment. At the same time at the prison, the second son was about to be brought to court to testify. Suddenly, a prisoner sneakily attacked the second son. The fatal stab caused the second son to fall down in pain. The news of the second son's assassination reached the judge's ears. Everything turned out to be unfavorable. The judge calmly entered the courtroom. Everyone anxiously listened to the judge's decision, but she said that there would be no trial. The entire courtroom became chaotic. Everyone was surprised by the judge's decision. She explained that there had been an incident that prevented the trial from taking place. Instead, the trial would be postponed for 2 days. The first son smiled, as he was the one who arranged everything. Da-hoon then returned to the police station. The second son's situation was very serious. Now everyone was actively investigating who the mastermind was. The superiors ordered Da-hoon to go and protect the second son. The second son saw Da-hoon enter and immediately sat up to greet him. Da-hoon asked about the second son's condition. Fortunately, the wound was not life-threatening, but that was the warning from the eldest son. If the second son dared to accuse the eldest son in court, who knows what would happen to the second son. Therefore the second son refused Da-hoon's request to save his life. Da-hoon understood why the second son decided that way. Now they had no witnesses to accuse the eldest son. The judge then personally came to see the eldest son. He was in prison, but he was living a happy life. The eldest son smiled and asked the judge why she came here. The judge did not hide her true intentions. She wanted to know where the video of them beating the second son's mother was. The eldest son laughed when the judge considered him as a stupid guy. He knew that was not her true purpose. The judge made a deal with the eldest son. She would let him go. In return, he had to kill and bring her the victim's body parts. The judge wanted an immortal body. The eldest son laughed when he knew the judge's ambition. The eldest son thought that she was like Satan. They were both the most evil demons. However, the eldest son still could not trust the judge. They did not have a good relationship. Just as the judge was about to leave, the eldest son suddenly asked how many people she needed to kill. The eldest son finally fell into the judge's trap. He had nothing left to lose. That evening, the judge reported everything to Da-hoon. Their top priority was to find the tape, along with the testimony of the younger son. Today was the first day of the trial. The judge asked the prosecutor to read the indictment. The eldest son was accused of serial murder, along with bribery of officials and other crimes. Therefore, the prosecutor requested a life sentence for him. The judge turned to the eldest son and asked if he had any objections. He calmly said that he did not do those things. The eldest son still maintained that he was completely innocent. The defense attorney pushed all the blame onto the second son. With a history of drug use, the second son was the perfect scapegoat so that the oldest son could escape all charges. The oldest son did exactly as the judge said, but an incident happened again. The courtroom door suddenly opened. The second son appeared from the darkness. The judge smiled when he saw the most important witness arrive. It turned out that Da-hoon's words yesterday had affected the second son's mind. This was the second son's last chance to save his mother. The prosecutor directly asked questions about the inspector's case. The second son recalled that fateful night. He followed the older son's words and joined forces to attack the inspector, but it was the oldest son who used an axe to kill the inspector, or the fact that the second son wandered around the judge's house every night. Those were all orders from the oldest son when the landlord refused to clear the land. Everyone in the court was angry when the oldest son did such a terrible thing. The prosecutor asked the second son if he wanted to apologize to the victim's family. The second son immediately stood up and turned around. He sincerely apologized to everyone for what he had done. Facing the hateful eyes, he truly repented. Now it was the defendant's lawyer's turn to question. The lawyer used the fingerprints on the gun to accuse the second son, but that was just the oldest son's trick to push all the blame onto his second brother. The youngest son continued to expose the oldest son's crimes. On a rainy day, the oldest son murdered a child. When seeing that, the son could not bear the guilty feeling. While visiting the child, the second son accidentally met the landlady. Even though he was his brother, the second son called the oldest son a devil. The lawyer intervened in the story. The lawyer asked where the video was recorded. The second son said that the oldest son had hidden it. This meant that the evidence was not in the hands of the second son. It was all just his guess. After the questioning ended, the judge announced the end of the first trial. Da-hoon returned from the trial to the police station. At this time, his colleagues had discovered the blueprint of the oldest son's building. It was very likely that the building had a fifth basement. After determining the secret location, Da-hoon's team raided the secret room. However, the door was locked. Da-hoon took a hammer and smashed the lock. The team continued to rush inside. Before them was a closed room. Everyone got dressed and prepared to rush inside. They were surprised to see a modern living room in the basement. Da-hoon noticed the cabinet next to the chair. When he opened it to check, he was surprised to see that it was where the oldest son kept tapes of his crimes. When he watched those tapes, even the judge could not bear the screams of the victims. The second trial quickly began. The prosecutor showed the tapes of the murders. However, the defense attorney said that the tapes were not related to the case, not to mention that the evidence was not collected according to the correct procedure. The judge is neutral. What the lawyer said was completely reasonable. Therefore, the judge will be the one to decide. Suddenly, the oldest son stood up. He admitted that he was the murderer who killed them. The whole court suddenly fell silent. The victims' families were extremely sad. The judge continued his speech. She asked if the oldest son had anything to say to the victims' families. The oldest son looked down. He recounted his poor past. He was willing to throw away his dignity to make money. However, his personality has soured. He wanted to kill all the poor to free them. His reasons made the victims' families angry. Why could he commit such crimes? The oldest son continued to describe his excitement. Even a devil like the judge could not bear it. The victims' families were so angry that they wanted to rush forward and kill the oldest son, but the police stopped them. In order for the trial to continue, Da-hoon was the only living witness. The lawyer objected that the case was not related to this case. The judge coldly interrupted the lawyer. She said that if the lawyer continued to be disrespectful, the judge would throw him out. Da-hoon continued his horrifying story. The murderer had brutally murdered his mother. Everyone was shocked to hear the heartbreaking story. Da-hoon begged the judge to save everyone from this suffering. That night, the angel went to see the judge. She wanted to invite the judge to dinner with her. The judge was out of sorts that the angel had taken her own food, but when the angel gave the judge a cake, the judge was a little touched. She said that the Lord High Steward had come to see her before the trial. The Lord High Steward asked her to release the eldest son. The angel asked the judge if she had talked to Da-hoon about this, but the judge didn't know how to start the conversation. The angel gave her a piece of advice. Just do what the devil usually does. However, this time, the judge didn't want to do it. She wanted the eldest son to receive a proper sentence. The judge's subordinates found out about the judge's decision not to release the eldest son. They begged her to release the eldest son. If not, the judge would be the one to be punished. But the judge's mind was made up. No one could change it. After informing everyone, the judge went to where Da-hoon was camping. He happily invited her to sit down. The judge asked if he would hate her if she gave the oldest son a light sentence. Da-hoon shook his head and said that she was the one who helped him catch the eldest son. Therefore, he would put all his trust in her. The judge asked him to promise her that no matter what decision she made, he would support her completely. Today was the day of the final verdict. Many reporters gathered outside to report. The most nervous people were the victim's family. The judge was making final preparations before the trial began. The judge asked the oldest son if he had anything else to say. The eldest son was very confident, as he had a private transaction with the judge. She calmly looked at everyone around. Then the judge began to read the oldest indictment. After reviewing the investigation, the eldest son's actions were unforgivable. All the evidence accused him. However, in this trial, that evidence was not considered. The eldest son thought he had escaped punishment, but he was wrong. The judge coldly announced the highest sentence. The eldest son would be sentenced to death. The victim's family burst into happiness. Finally, justice had been served. After the trial ended, the judge came to see Da-hoon. He emotionally hugged her. Da-hoon wanted her to go with him to visit his parents' grave. He finally avenged his parents. Not long after, the trial of the second son began. Because he had become a witness against the eldest son's sentence was reduced to only 15 years in prison. Before being sentenced, the second son rushed to the judge. He handed her a piece of paper. The second son told the judge to look in the safe in his room. The decision to sentence the eldest son to the highest sentence pleased many people. However, it was related to the interests of the officials. As the judge's superior, he had to bear all the consequences of her decision. Meanwhile, in prison, the victim's family members kept coming to see the oldest son. Instead of feeling guilty, the eldest son still defiantly challenged the victim's family members. The landlady was furious and wanted to kill him. After the judge returned from prison, she went to see the landlady. It turned out that the item in the second son's safe was the gift that the landlady's son wanted to give his mother for her birthday. When the landlady saw her son's keepsake, she couldn't help but be moved. That night at the prison, the second son was murdered by someone. That was the starting point for the escape of the oldest son. His accomplices gave the oldest son the escape plan. Meanwhile, the messenger from hell had found the judge. Her time in the human world was up. The messenger asked asked the judge to return to hell to receive her punishment, but the judge begged the messenger to give her some time. After getting the messenger's consent, the judge made an appointment to meet Da-hoon one last time. He had no idea that her time was up. The judge mustered up all her courage to express her feelings. She gave him the most passionate kiss. This surprised Da-hoon. The judge smiled and said goodbye to Da-hoon. Then she gently left. Da-hoon felt that the judge was hiding something from him. Just as he was about to go find her, the warden and the assistant arrived. The warden uncomfortably told Da-hoon to go stop the judge. The judge was now meeting the messenger to receive her sentence. Da-hoon hurriedly ran to the woods in the park near his house, but it was too late. The judge calmly walked in front of the messenger of hell. The messenger slowly pulled out the knife that brought death. The judge did not hesitate or resist. The messenger directly stabbed the knife into the judge. She painfully held her wound. Blood flowed out continuously. The judge painfully collapsed to the ground. By the time Da-hoon arrived, the judge had completely lost consciousness. He painfully called her to wake up, but she did not respond. The judge was quickly taken to the emergency room. The doctors quickly performed artificial respiration on the judge. Outside, Da-hoon was watching anxiously. However, the heart rate monitor returned to 0. Da-hoon was stunned as the judge died right in front of him. Tears of pain began to fall. The doctor announced the judge's time of death. That was when Da-hoon's hope was extinguished. He slowly walked into the hospital room. He pulled back the white curtain to reveal the judge's beautiful face. His trembling hands touched her cheek. Suddenly the heart monitor started to show signs of life again. Da-hoon hurriedly ran to call the doctor. At the same time in hell, the judge returned to the place she called home. The Lord High Steward angrily stepped before the judge. He demanded an explanation for the judge daring to disobey his orders. However, the judge said that she had nothing to explain. She had made her judgment based on her conscience. The Lord High Steward angrily opened the gates of hell. As soon as she stepped inside, her soul would be imprisoned forever. The judge slowly walked towards the gates. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out. The angel appeared behind her along with the will of God. The Lord High Steward was surprised when a noble existence went to hell. The angel said that the judge had acted according to her conscience. She was a kind demon. In order to reward the judge's heart, God decided to let her live and serve according to God's will. The Lord High Steward angrily left after hearing this. As soon as the two of them were left, the judge worriedly asked if the angel was dead. It turned out that the angel had chosen to leave peacefully to save the judge. The judge wondered why the angel had helped her. The angel said that she had proven the pure heart of a devil. Now it was time for her to receive her just reward. The angel told the judge to return to the human world to see the person she loved. Then the angel came to heal the judge's wounds. A warm light woke the judge up from her long sleep. As soon as she opened her eyes, Da-hoon asked her how she was. The judge carefully observed the wound, and sure enough that the angel had completely healed it for her. Da-hoon shyly told her to put down her shirt. Before she could be happy for long, suddenly Da-hoon received news from a colleague. The oldest son, after attended the second son's funeral, had escaped. He was currently trying to escape abroad. The person who helped the oldest son escape was the subordinate. The oldest son asked his subordinate if anyone knew about this. After confirming that only his subordinate knew about it, the oldest son coldly killed his subordinate and drove away. The oldest son was driving confidently on the road when someone called. That person said that there was a problem with his fake passport. The eldest son angrily turned his car around and went to see the person who forged the passport. He didn't expect that he had fallen into the judge's trap. This was the time for her to avenge her previous grudge. The judge and his subordinates had prepared a grand party to welcome the eldest son back. At the same time, at the foot of the bridge, the body of the subordinate had also been discovered by the police. They were furious that the oldest son was so cruel. The police immediately set out to hunt him down. The oldest son had already driven to the villa in the suburbs. He brazenly walked in, not afraid of being caught. But when he sensed the dangerous atmosphere, the oldest son picked up the decorative stone. Suddenly the judge spoke. The oldest son smiled at her for daring to be here. The judge ordered the oldest son to put down the stone. However, he did not listen and rushed straight at the judge. The judge laughed and used his hand to block the stone. The oldest son was scared when he had to face such an overwhelming force. The judge coldly used her power to send him into another world. The eldest son was surprised to find himself in a forest. The judge coldly loaded her gun from behind. She said that he had killed a total of 14 people, so now he had to become her target for hunting. The judge gave the eldest son 10 seconds to escape. The timer started counting down. The eldest son ran away from the judge in fear. The judge happily aimed at the eldest son. She enjoyed the eldest son's pain and his miserable screams when he was hit by the arrow, but that was not the final result yet. The judge had also prepared many traps in the forest. As soon as the eldest son ran away, he accidentally stepped on one of them. The eldest son's miserable scream echoed throughout the forest. The judge smiled and walked towards the eldest son. Without hesitation, she sent him to hell. The oldest son woke up to find himself in a courtroom. The person sitting in front of him was the judge. In the distance, the gates of hell slowly opened. The messenger led the congressman's soul to the oldest son. After suffering in hell, the congressman had lost his humanity. As soon as the chains were removed, the judge threw 2 swords down below. She asked the two to fight. The eldest son sarcastically asked what the congressman could do to him. The judge asked the congressman if he wanted to join. The congressman congressman picked up the sword without hesitation. The two of them rushed into a fierce fight. Suddenly, the congressman revealed his true form. He was Satan, imprisoned in fire hell. Satan went mad and rushed in to knock away the oldest son's sword. Above, the judge happily watched the two of them slaughter each other. The oldest son did not give up either. He had knocked Satan down, but that was not enough for him to win. With strong power, Satan had turned the tables. Satan stabbed the oldest son with a fatal blow. Then, Satan coldly slashed him, ending the fight. The judge smiled and walked towards the oldest son. He couldn't die yet. There was still a place he had to go. Immediately, the scene changed to Da-hoon's old house. The oldest son was scared when he saw that the judge was there too. He picked up his weapon, intending to attack the judge, but she just turned around and slashed off his hand. The oldest son screamed in pain. The judge coldly said that he was the one who ruined Da-hoon's life. However, the oldest son still tried to justify his mistake. What he did was just to purge the lowly. Why would someone like the judge interfere in this? The judge angrily said that the real punishment was just beginning. The oldest son trembled as the judge approached. The excruciating pain woke him up again. The oldest son bowed his head and begged the judge to spare his life. The judge angrily said that this was the pain that the victims had to go through. Then she threw the oldest son a prison uniform. The oldest son obediently asked what he should do. The judge angrily rushed forward and punched the eldest son away. Even when he had lost the ability to resist, the judge had no intention of stopping. The oldest son cried and screamed in pain, but that still did not satisfy the judge. She continued her punishment. After enduring the physical pain, the oldest son begged her to stop. The judge asked him to apologize to the victims. The eldest son obediently kowtowed to apologize to them. The judge sat down in front of the eldest son. She said that from now on he would have to suffer the punishment of hell. The eldest son went crazy when he was teased by the judge. The judge angrily grabbed the eldest son by the neck. The sword in her hand appeared. The judge cruelly stabbed the eldest son to death. Blood flowed on the floor. The gates of hell were opened once again. His soul was instantly sucked into eternal hell. This was the fitting result for a cruel murderer. A new day began. Early in the morning, the police arrived at the villa. Da-hoon was surprised to see many coffins displayed before his eyes, along with the body of the oldest son hanging upside down on a tree. Da-hoon carefully walked towards the coffins. Inside were the bodies of the poor victims killed by the eldest son. Da-hoon painfully knelt down beside his relatives. Finally, they were at peace. A short time later, the funerals of the victims were held. The judge happily enjoyed the meal prepared for the funeral. The news also reported on the case. The warden carefully asked the cleaning brothers if they had erased all the evidence. They were confident that they had erased everything. At this moment, Da-hoon appeared. He and everyone else came to offer flowers to the victims. That night, the two sat together. Da-hoon begged the judge not to return to hell. The judge said she would not go anywhere. It turned out that the Lord High Steward had gone to see the judge before. The Lord High Steward was furious that the judge had dragged the angels into this. However, she had completed her mission excellently. Now she could return to hell and inherit the position of Lord High Steward. The judge said that she wanted a gift, so she decided to take a 3-year leave. For the next 3 years, she would always be by Da-hoon's side. Seeing Da-hoon sad, the judge comforted him. She said that no matter what life she was in, she would protect him. In order to be with Da-hoon, the judge decided to move to a new place. Everyone sadly saw her off. Even though the judge had moved far away, Da-hoon visited her every day. He wondered if he should move here to live with her. The judge apologized to Da-hoon for being a bit selfish. Just as they were about to share a passionate kiss, someone suddenly called to inform the judge. She was finally transferred to the sole prosecutor's office, which meant they would be together again. The lives of the victim's family became more and more positive. The judge happily watched everyone living a happy life. She returned to the old house she used to live in. The place no longer had a gloomy and sad look, but bright colors covered the street. The love story between the two of them progressed well. By chance, while walking, the judge met Da-hoon's younger sister. The younger sister was walking with her classmate. The judge felt that the classmate looked familiar, from the way she ate to the way she spoke. Finally, she realized that the classmate was the incarnation of an angel. It was thought that everything would go smoothly, but the Lord High Steward visited the judge's office again. The Lord High Steward said that the judge had been in the human world for 2 years. The judge was annoyed that the Lord High Steward kept bothering her. The Lord High Steward asked the judge if she was happy being a judge. The judge said that she was very happy. Unexpectedly, the Lord High Steward gave her a mission. In this last year, if she could send 10 murderers to hell, then the Lord would let her live in the human world forever. After saying that, the Lord High Steward immediately disappeared. That night, the judge asked Da-hoon to talk. It seemed that she would have to kill again. That meant the police would have a hard time investigating her. The judge knew that what she did would hurt the victims' families, but Da-hoon comforted her. No matter what decision she made, he would wholeheartedly believe in that choice. The judge smiled brightly at having someone who understood her, but when the judge faced the murderers, their arrogant attitude gave her all the more reason to kill them. She is the devil judge who will send the wicked to hell once and for all. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching. Thank you, and see you in the next videos. Bye.